go, everybody. Hello and welcome to TheoryCraft episode 18. It is June 3rd, 2021. I am the broken-hearted Hoover Fixer Sucker guy, also known as the sad orc player who can't beat Night Elf, also known as the guy who kind of has to shave, if I'm being honest with you a little bit. Also known as the guy who's a little bit tired because it's really hot outside, also known as Carson. That's my name. With 3 N's even sometimes, because better for branding. If you Google Carson with 3 N's, you find me. If you Google Carson with 1 N, you probably find that American politician. Or possibly that talk show host. How's everyone doing? You see me all right? Can you hear me all right? How's you guys' week? My week's been great. It's been fantastic. It's beautiful outside. Very hot, but beautiful outside. Last week was it even last week? God, it feels like it's been ages. We interviewed Starshaped. And that was a lot of fun. Not a guy that I've spoken to before. That was actually my first time ever speaking to Starshaped, actually talking to him. I've typed to him before in match lobbies and stuff like that. I've casted his games, right? So I've said, oh, okay, yeah, what host would you like? Stuff like that. But I've never actually had a discussion with him. I've never been on a podcast with him. Never been on like a town hall or anything with him. Never talked to him on Discord. So it was cool. That was, you guys heard the very first time I talked to Starshaped, and he's a really smart guy. And I thought it was a really nice discussion. And that's all credit to the guest. For these interviews, it's really like, if they go poorly, it's my fault because I'm the interviewer. But if it goes well, it's really out of my hands as well. It's all about the guest. If the guest is banging, then the discussion's got to be really good. It's all about the guest. Unless it's bad, and then it's me because, you know, you only get what you give. You know what I mean? How jealous is Beto of your mustache? I don't think he's jealous. I think he can grow one as well. Although it's a little bit blonde. Cherry blonde. Pretty jealous, 7 out of 10, yeah. Couple things before we jump in today's episode. This announcement's going to be a little bit outdated by the time, well, in like a few days, but for you guys watching on Twitch right now, exclamation point WGL in the chat. The qualifiers for the WGL summer season, the Western qualifiers, are this Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday. So, exclamation point WGL in the chat. If you feel like participating in one of the world's biggest Warcraft 3 tournaments, you know, just see maybe how far you get. Just to try it out. See how far you get. Exclamation point WGL in the chat. It will link you to a Reddit post, which has the challenge sign-up links there. The qualifier on Saturday has been pushed, is it forward or back? It's 2 hours later. It was at 8 a.m. Pacific, now it's at 10 a.m. Pacific. It was at 5 p.m. European Standard Time, now it's at 7 p.m. on Saturday. Sunday's still the same. Burning Blades, how you doing? So if you are a player, even if you don't think you're going to make it into the money, even if you don't think you're going to make a deep run at it, this is something I talk about during the ESL Cups as well with Beto very often. It's cool just to see how far you can go. I've never personally, at least in 1v1 tournaments, I've been carried in team tournaments. I've never made any money in 1v1 tournaments. I've played a bunch of cups, etc. I've never made any money in them. But my goal when I played them was always, let's see if I can make it to the next round. One round further than I made it the last time, right? Maybe 1 week I'll get knocked out in the first round. Maybe next week I'll try to at least win that first best of one. And it's similar for these sort of qualifiers. It starts with these open qualifiers on the 5th and 6th. And then from there goes to a closed qualifier. From there it goes to the main event. If you can, maybe if you're a pretty advanced player, you could say, hey, maybe I'll try to win one of these open qualifiers. Maybe I won't make it out of the closed, but let's see. Maybe if you're a less advanced player, you'll say, maybe I'll try and make it to the second round of the open qualifier. There's always sort of goals you can set for yourself, and tournaments are a really good way to learn how to play. So I'd recommend, if you have the time, if you're able to, not just this tournament, although this is what I'm sort of telling you guys because it's the most recent one coming up, but any tournament in the future, I'd recommend you guys just trying it. You're not going to win. It's very difficult to win tournaments. It's very difficult to get into the money of tournaments. There's a lot of great players that play pretty much every tournament that has any prize pool at all. But you should always try to one-up yourself, right? Give it a try. Give it a try. You'd be surprised at how many people actually sign up that are also close to your skill level. So exclamation point WGL in the chat. That's my whole tournament thing. I keep mentioning that for the ESL Open Cups, but it's also true with these qualifiers. Hey, Carson, can you teach me how to beat Elf on AZ with FS Grunt Tower Rush? Reference to the ESL Cup. Man, I got that replay somewhere. Maybe I should go over it. Well, first things first, I would recommend you veto AZ. How about that? How about that? How about you start there? Alright, I'm not going to read that out loud, luckiest. Oh, jeez. Oh, Jesus. Okay, and next thing, as I'll jump over the notepad for this. Jump over the notepad for this part. Because we're going to talk about what next week's episode is, and then we'll talk about, of course, today's episode. So we'll jump to the notepad. Boop, boop, boop. So, of course, next week's episode is Community Replay Review. We have this most every month. I don't believe we had it last month because we only did 2 episodes last month. So I think we just did Human Day and an interview last month. So we skipped Community Replay. So now I got a bunch of replays stockpiled, but it's not too late. You can get your replays in. How do you get your replays in, you might ask? Well, you could join our Discord, which you can find a link to that. I think you could do exclamation point Discord in the chat, or you can go to our website, backtowarcraft.com, and join our Discord channel. So you can do that. And there's a TheoryCraft. There's a TheoryCraft channel in there, or you can email me your replays at carson@backtowarcraft.com. So next week will be Community Replay Review. I will watch you guys' replays. Within reason, if they're 3 hours long, I might skip them. But I think I got like 12 replays or something submitted. So, but it's never too late. It's never too late. Maybe I'll just do a 5-hour long episode. You guys never know. You guys never know. And of course, if you're, I think it's coached here on the Patreon, you get priority. Exclamation point Patreon for that. So submit your replays. I will watch them, and I will talk about them, and I will see if I can maybe give you a pointer or two, but no promises there. Because I've actually had some very good players submit replays the past couple times. So it's kind of hard to always give critiques on players. But that is next week's episode. I'm excited. Those are some of my favorite episodes. I really like watching you guys' replays. I always look forward to them. And that's it. That's WGL. That's next week. On to this week. Wagwans with the 11 months. How you doing? Thank you very much, man. Appreciate that. All right. Forgive me for continuously drinking and pouring tea, but I'm going to get through this whole thing. Hopefully by the end of the first replay, I'll be energized. All right? Man's got to do what a man's got to do. Methos is my name. How's it going? How you doing? Okay. I had a question for you guys. What was I going to ask you guys? What was I going to ask? Whatever. Oh, this is what I was going to bring up. Yeah, so for today's episode, we're going to watch 4 replays of 4 different Orc players. It happens to be Orc Day today. Unfortunately, there was a patch yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, that updated nothing. I actually don't think they did anything. They just happened to patch the game. And because of that patch, War 3 Booster's broken. And for some reason, none of the replays played on Concealed Hill work anymore. It gives you a map missing bug, which I tried to fix for a very long time yesterday. Bidu tried to help me as well. And I could not, for the life of me, watch any of these replays I downloaded on Concealed Hill. So we'll have no games on Concealed Hill today. Unfortunately, because there was a lot of replays on Concealed Hill that I wanted to watch. So that's 2 things. So there'll be no overlay today, and there'll be no Concealed Hill games. And that's just because of the patch a couple days ago. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but we make do, and we got an episode. Of course we do. That's just kind of the downside of doing this from replays, is that yeah, something probably did change, but they didn't actually have any patch notes, is what I mean by that. There was no patch notes of things changed. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, because I watch replays, sometimes the replays get broken. But that's all right. That's all right. Okay, so today is Orc Day. The title of today's episode is The Fundamentals of Orc versus Elf. So, lucky that Bidu didn't break your entire game trying to help you fix the problem. Yeah, exactly, Tommy. The Fundamentals of Orc versus Elf. So, let's work our way through this title. When I say Orc versus Elf, which is the end of the title first, I'm going to be speaking today about standard Orc versus Elf. Who in the chat could tell me what is standard Orc versus Elf? There's many strategies. I did an entire episode on the variability of this matchup from even the Night Elf's point of view, but of course there's different strategies the Orc could do as well. But what is like standard Orc versus Elf? What do we see? Of course it'll be a Keeper versus a Blade Master. Somebody says, Keeper the Grove, Mass Tier 1 with Expo, Kyoteji, Tri-Hero with Archers. Good. Orc loses in Standard, and it starts again, of course. Every episode I do on a specific race, that race can never win in that specific matchup. Yes, Orc does lose, indeed. BM Shadowhunter, Grunt Shaman, beautiful. Women versus Snakes, very good. Very good. Keeper, Elk, Archers, Hunt stay on Tier 2. Horribly abuse of some greeny boys. Expo. Prediction. There's a prediction. Yeah, that's standard. So how I would describe it was, from the Orc's point of view, of course, it's going to be Blade Master, Shadowhunter, Grunt Shaman, just at the standard level, and you're going to get Serpent Wards, Heal Wave, all that stuff. And from the Night Elf point of view, he's going to try to get a fast expansion. He's going to go Keeper, Alchemist, Archer, Huntress, eventually go Tier 3 with a Priestess of the Moon and a couple of orbs, stuff like that. Very, very standard. If you've seen any Moon series recently, Moon pretty much plays the standard almost every game, whereas other Night Elf players, LawLiet, Colorful, Sini, Foggy, they do different builds sometimes. They'll go into Lures, they'll go into Winds, right? They'll go Demon Hunter first, they'll go Potom first, they'll go Beastmaster first, who knows? Not going to be talking about that today. We're just going to be talking about standard Orc versus Elf, the most standard style of it, which is all about the Elf's expansion. It's all about the Elf getting mass Tier 1 units, but they end up being Tier 3 units. And it's all about the Orc getting high-level heroes, counter expansion, Grunt Shaman. That's what I mean by Orc versus Elf in the title. Okay, that's the first part dealt with. The fundamentals. Can anyone define for me, and I had the luxury of Googling the definition after I made this title, so the definition might not entirely fit the point I'm trying to make, but I believe you will understand what I'm meaning. Can anyone define what fundamentals is for me? Just in your own words, maybe. I'll give you the proper definition, the dictionary definition, but can anyone define what they think, maybe as it pertains to RTS or Warcraft specifically? You tell me what the fundamentals are. What's the fundamentals? The bare essentials. I think that's a good way to put it, yeah. Bare essentials. Central rules and tenets, yeah. The foundation, the building blocks. I love that, yeah. The building blocks. Love that. The basics, micro, macro strategy. The least you have to know. Core things. Good. Good. I like that. So here's the definition of fundamentals, but I do like the way that you guys actually put it better than what the definition is. The bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. Beautiful one, too. Beautiful. So here's the definition of it. Oh, no! All right. And here's the definition of it. A central or primary rule or principle on which something is based. And since I'm saying fundamentals, primary rules. Plural, right? Plural. But yeah, essentially, what I'm talking about fundamentals is I mean, I'm not going to show you guys anything crazy, right? There's a lot of nuance to this matchup. There's a lot of metagaming that goes on at the top level. What do I mean by metagaming? Well, you know, the last time I played LawLiet, he crept his expansion first. So this time I'm going to blind speed scroll across and try to counter that And then LawLiet's going to think he might be countering that, so I'm going to just creep really safe and go for a green camp. There's a lot of metagaming like that that goes on at the highest level. So the opening creep routes can be very complicated. The reason why people are doing stuff is very complicated sometimes. Some of the movements that the Blade and the Keeper do in the mid game and the early game can be very complicated as well. But what I want to give you guys, because so often do I talk to Orc players and do I see Orc players that are, you know, even maybe a little bit better than myself sometimes. But, you know, maybe my skill level, lower than that, a little bit better than me, maybe around that sort of level. And then, of course, as it gets lower and lower down or higher and higher, maybe some Orc players also have these issues. But they do get fundamental things incorrectly. So I won't be trying to dig too hard into the nuanced details of this matchup or the overcomplicated things that maybe I'm not qualified to talk to you guys about. But what I want to make this episode about is just talking about the basics, the fundamentals, the general principles of the matchup, what every Orc does consistently the same. That has nothing to do with style, and by that I mean their play style in-game. It just has to do with what are the standard ways people play this matchup. That's what I mean by the fundamentals of Orc versus Elf in standard Orc versus Elf. So with that being said, what would be some fundamentals in this matchup? This is probably, we're going to get a lot of different answers for this. And my idea of what fundamentals are might be different from your guys's. I don't think there's any wrong answers here, but what do you guys see as the fundamentals in this matchup? It could be specifics. It could be literally what units you're getting. Or it could be saying, you know, knowing what units to get. There's sort of two sides to it. You can go very specific with what the fundamentals are, or you can just ask the general questions. Right? There's two sides to it, which is why I say there's probably no wrong or right answer here. There might be different wordings on it. Mining gold and lumber, brilliant. Shadowhunter level 3, Shamans, watch Keeper. Grunts versus Archers, prevent Keeper from fast level 3, Grunt Shaman, Peons, beautiful. No, actually, Talons is not the standard anymore, although, yes, it was for very, very long. Elf wants early game control, Orc wants to harass and delay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Scout Expo and AP Rush. Scout Elf at tier 2, most important. That is a very important point. Because, of course, going into a matchup, even if at the end of the day it is a standard game, us going into a game, or pro players that we're going to watch today going into a game, they don't know that our Elf opponents are going to be playing standard. There's no gentleman's agreement that the Elf is going to play standard. So, yes, scouting what they're doing at tier 2 is important to confirm if it's standard or not. You have to drink the demon's blood to beat the elves. Right. So there's a lot of cool points in there. Let me summarize some of these. So yeah, someone says watch Keeper. Let me put that, watch Keeper. Beautiful. Shadowhunter level 3 I think is great. Absolutely. Grunts versus Archers, cool. Prevent Keeper from level 3, I think that's part of watch Keeper. Scout Expo and AP Rush. Yep, scouting, I would say in general, is a very important thing, which we're going to talk a lot about. Shamans for Dispel. Yeah, so priority on Shamans, or try to rushing out Dispel, let's say. Dispel for Keeper. Because, of course, the reason that we're going for Shamans in this matchup is because we want to get them as early as possible so that we don't have to sit in our base against the Keeper. So you go for a 1-burrow tech, and then you go for Shamans as early as possible. Once you have a single purge, you're pretty much safe to creep your Shadowhunter. Yeah, be afraid before Shamans. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. That's absolutely what you should do. Kill this weak 1-armor alchemist. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think these are some really good fundamentals. Shadowhunter level 3. Well, let's just go down the list. Let's go down the list. For these 5, there's obviously more, but let's go down the list for what we have here, what we gathered. So watching the Keeper. Now, at the most basic level, what watching Keeper means is, depending on the map, different maps have different opening creep routes, but you as the Orc player playing Blade Master, you're going to do your standard opening creep route. On some maps, you'll creep level 2. We will see this on some maps. On other maps, maybe you'll just creep a single creep, take one item, and then run over, and you're going to try to find the Keeper after your opening creep routes. After you find the Keeper, as the Orc player, at the most basic level, all you kind of have to do at that point is just follow the Keeper around for the whole early game. It's very simple, actually. It's difficult mechanically because you can lose sight of him. He goes around a tree line and you lose sight. But strategically, it's very simple. You can just, by watching the Keeper, you can just follow him around. What do you accomplish by following him around? Well, you make his creeping much more difficult. If he tries to creep with his Keeper involved, you're going to know about it. You can make his expanding very difficult, because if he tries to run to the expansion to creep it with the Keeper, you'll find him and the expansion. You keep yourself safe because he can't harass your grunts or your peons or your Shadowhunter creeping. You just keep yourself very safe by just following around that Keeper. Now, we're not going to see all these top Orcs. We're going to watch 4 different Orc players today. We're not going to see all of them just chase the Keeper around the entire time, because this is where the nuance comes in. There is situations in which you can let the Keeper out of your sight because you know where he's going to be moving or what he's going to be doing so that you can do something yourself. But at the most basic level, as the Orc player, if you're a player of my skill level, you can just chase the Keeper around the entire early game. Because for me, for instance, if I don't watch the Keeper by physically following him around, if I lose him, I might not know actually where he's going. Whereas somebody like Lynn, like Fly, like Focus, they might know, okay, he's got to go creep this camp because he's got this many units, and that's how hard, and that's the amount of units it takes to creep this camp. Whereas me, if I lose that Keeper, I might lose him for the rest of the game. So yes, watching Keeper is a very important fundamental part of the matchup. And that can be done by literally chasing the Keeper around. And if I were to play this matchup, that's what I would do in the early game. Shadowhunter level 3. Very, very important. Also ties into watching the Keeper. Shadowhunter level 3, why is it important? Well, because Serpent Ward's level 2 against the Huntresses, or sometimes even Heal Wave level 2, not as commonly. But Shadowhunter level 3 is really your big damage dealer against the Huntresses you're going to see these players have early on. Shadowhunter level 3 is also good for hitting timings against the Keeper's expansion. It's also very good for defending your expansion. But the tricky part about it is just actually being able to creep the Shadowhunter. Why? Because when you start to creep your Shadowhunter, you don't always have Shamans out right away. So how do you creep without Shamans when there's a Keeper potentially level 3 looking to creepjack you, maybe with a bunch of Huntresses and an Alchemist? Well, that's where the watching the Keeper comes into play. You watch the Keeper with your Blade Master to keep your Shadowhunter safe, so your Shadowhunter can creep up to level 3 as efficiently as possible, because we want to be able to hit clean timings with level 3, but also as safely as possible. So this is a very fundamental part of the matchup, is being able to creep your Shadowhunter safely to level 3, but also extremely fast. And that's what you see from top-level Orcs. They have very fast level 3 Keepers, or level 3 Shadowhunters, rather. And they don't lose a lot for getting it. Whereas a lot of people sometimes try to creep the Shadowhunter up and they get creepjacked and they lose the game. This does happen very often because their scouting is bad and these things go hand in hand. Grunts versus Archers, this of course is another fundamental. What units do I build? Of course, Grunts and Shamans. The Grunts are going to have, this is something that not all Orc players do in the matchup. One of those things that I say when I watch Orc players my skill level or somewhere around there that they sometimes miss out on. We're going to see these top Orcs prioritize upgrades actually on their Grunts as well. And specifically 2 armor upgrades. Why 2 armor upgrades? Well, of course, Acid Bomb is going to be on the field because our opponents are going to go Alchemist second. But also because the idea with winning fights in this matchup, you have Shamans to deal with the Treants and the Entangle, and also for Lightning Shield against the Archers on your Blade Master. So Lightning Shield's good against the Archers. Against the Huntresses, you have Serpent Wards. But really, since most of our damage is coming from Lightning Shield on a Blade Master and Serpent Wards, what do we need to supplement that? Well, we need tanky units. We need units that can survive long enough for the Lightning Shield and the Serpent Wards to do their work. So armor upgrades on top of Grunts is a very important part of this matchup, as is Heal Scrolls to help our Grunts. So yeah, Grunts versus Archers. Scouting is more than just watching the keeper, of course. What else do we have to scout for? Can you guys tell me what else we have to scout for other than just chasing the keeper around the entire time? This can be done sometimes with peons. It can be done sometimes with grunts. There's a hint for you guys for one of the things we have to scout for. What can we scout with our grunts if we still have to keep them safe from the keeper? What else do we scout for? There's a couple of important things. Yeah, Expo, of course. Expo is what I said can be done sometimes with a peon or with our Blade Master. But again, as I said, the keeper, if we chase around the keeper, will sometimes lead us to the expansion because they have to creep it, of course. And it's hard to creep it without the keeper being there. So if we chase the keeper around, he'll lead us to the expansion. He'll lead us to the pot of gold most of the time. And Ancient Protector, of course, which can be scouted with our grunts, which is something consistent we're going to see from these players. They're going to be scouting for a single hidden Ancient Protector close to their base with their grunts. And yeah, AP push could also be similar. And buildings after tier 2, which can be done with your Blade Master or your peon. Because we need to know, are they going for wins? Are they going for lores? The cool thing about finding the expansion, however, if we scout the expo, is that typically Night Elf players will not go for lores or wins if they get an early expansion. If they go for a very early expansion, most of the time it is just a standard game. But yeah, it is important to see if they are going for tech. And tier 3 tech timing, that's absolutely going to come into play for one of the replays we're going to watch today. I believe the second replay we watch, the tier 3 tech timing scouting is going to be very important. Chimera roosts don't come into play too often, but sure. Yeah, tech buildings, I would still say. What if opponent has Moon and always entangles your scout peon? Well, therein lies the counterplay to something that's essential for Orc. So we have to find a workaround for that. And there's going to be some workarounds that we see today. Well, the standard NB is mass tier 1 units, archers and huntresses, which is what we're talking about today. The most standard. Of course, Bear Dryad and Mass Talons is common, but it's not the standard, so to speak. Yes, so all the replays will be huntress and archers. And then rushing out Dispel for Keeper is, of course, why we go for shamans as opposed to maybe Spirit Walkers of the past. Because it takes a long time to get Spirit Walkers. And we can't really move out of our base. We have to play extremely safe with this perfect blade scouting I was talking about, watching the Keeper. Right, watching the Keeper. Until we have shamans out. Once we have shamans out and we can deal with the entangle threat, we can play much greedier. We can take fights more often. We can expand more freely. We can creep bigger camps. We can have our blade in different positions other than the Keeper. So rushing Dispel is very important for us to be able to do more than just follow the Keeper around. Makes sense? So those are some of the fundamentals, not all of them. And maybe some of these aren't even fundamental in your opinion. Totally fine. But that's the general idea of what I mean when I say the fundamentals of Orc versus Elf. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So the idea of today's episode is we're going to be watching 4 different Orc players. We're going to be watching Focus, Soin, Lin, and Fly. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any Hitman replays, or I would have thrown him in there as well. He had one replay that I found, and that was on Concealed Hill, and Concealed Hill doesn't work, so no Hitman replays, unfortunately. But the other big 4, we're going to be covering. So we're going to watch 4 different Orc players, 4 replays, against 4 different Night Elf players. And all these games are going to be standard games. There's going to be some differences between each player. But therein lies the Venn diagram of what is fundamentals and what is stylistic play, which is why I'm doing 4 different Orc players today. Now, can you do a Venn diagram with 4 circles? Certainly, I guess it works, eh? So imagine a Venn diagram, 4 circles. 1 with Soin, 1 with Lin, 1 with Fly, 1 with Focus. Now, everything that's in the circle in the middle, they find common ground with. It could be kind of messy in the middle, wouldn't it? But you see the point. Is what is essential to do, right? If we find the commonalities, thank you, Dropkick2159. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. If we find the commonalities between these 4 different Orc players, certainly those are the essential things that you must do in this matchup. The things where they differ, Maybe those are non-essentials, non-fundamentals. Maybe those are stylistic choices. Maybe those are specific to the map or specific to the player they're against. Maybe these are those meta games that I was talking about, these nuanced plays. So what we're looking for today between all the 4 players is the commonalities. What do they all do exactly the same? What timings, what unit compositions? How do they use their Blade Master? How do they creep their Shadow Hunter? That's what we're looking at today, and we'll try to keep tagging that as we're watching these 4 replays, and try to think, oh, what did Soin do in the last replay? Oh, what did Lin do that's different from Fly? Oh, what is Fly doing that's different from Focus? And therein lies what we can pull from these players, because it's not always easy to just watch a Lin replay or watch a Fly replay in particular, and just be like, oh, there's what I'm supposed to do, right? Oh, let me just copy Fly, forehead. It's not always easy to do that. So, the point of today's episode is not to take everything these guys are doing and take it as gospel, because it's a very nuanced matchup, right? It's a very nuanced matchup with lots of stuff that isn't obvious to the naked eye when they're doing it, right? And these replays aren't all perfect, but they are very standard, so to speak. So there will be some mistakes in these replays. There will be some weird plays on occasion in these replays, but they are very close to what I would consider standard, which is why we're watching them. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Does anyone have any questions? At all? Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, you can check the Back to Warcraft YouTube channel for all 17 VODs of this show. 17 VODs, Jesus. Can't believe I've sat here like essentially lecturing you guys for like 50 hours now. What am I drinking? Just tea. Just tea. Why am I so awesome? Like, don't know about that. Don't know about that. Is Elk second considered standard, or does DH get thrown in? DH is very common because, of course, Night Elf, I would say, is the most malleable. Is that a good word to use here? Malleable race, especially against Orc. They have many different strategies which could be considered equally strong. But the most standard, yes, is Alchemist second. How much MMR are we going to gain after tonight? I would say, honestly, if you're a more advanced player, a lot of the stuff I will say tonight might be obvious to you guys that you might already know. But if you're a less advanced player, you'll probably learn a lot, actually. You'll probably learn a lot about the matchup. And there might be a tidbit here or there for the more advanced player. Absolutely. I'm intermediate, but I'll get 10 to 30 MMR. Like I said, there's going to be a couple of things. There's going to be a couple things. One more question for you guys before we jump into the first replay would be, well, we're looking at these replays, and I said the point of today's episode is because I see a lot of Orc players make fundamental errors. What are some common mistakes that Orc players, maybe you or maybe I, some common mistakes that us Orc players make? What do you guys think? I wrote down 7. 1 is a bit on the nose, but there's 7 common mistakes, I would say. Grunt lose freely. I think that's a great point. Yes, that's a very common mistake, which actually even top players make, but still. If that could be Jack tonight. Losing grunts. Absolutely losing grunts. No fortified. I would say that's more of a nuanced mistake, but absolutely that could lose you games in specific circumstances for sure. Macro slipping. Very good. Very good. Losing track of keeper early. Great point. Missing AP or guessing the strat wrong, like I was saying. With only seeing archers on tier 1 could be dots, in which case you want totem over lodge. Great. Very good. No dust. Cool. Letting Night Elf creep. Only Carson was going over how to beat Chims. 2 Bat Riders kill a Chimera that has no armor upgrades. There's your TheoryCraft on beating Chims. Not keeping Blade at Expo. Will they stall at your base for push? That is very cool, Shadow. That is very cool. We're going to see that very often. The mind cancels, I believe, is what you're talking about. bad all-in timing versus expo, or sometimes even all-inning the expo at all. Queuing as orc? Come on. Come on. I'm an orc player too. Come on. You don't mean that, Black Phoenix. You don't mean that. Not making sure you're being AP rush? Absolutely. Yeah, so here's what I wrote down preemptively, although maybe after reading what you guys have said in the chat now, maybe I would change some of these things, but I won't even read what I put down. I'll just show you guys, and let's read it together. Elf creeps for free or gets expo for free, so that would come with maybe losing the keeper early on and letting him get level 3. And you can let him get level 3 if you stop the expo. And you can let the expo get up if you stop the level 3. But if you let him get a free expo as well as level 3, that's typically how you lose the early game as orc. So both of these in combination would be a mistake. One of them, not the end of the world. I would say it's better to try to stop the keeper level 3 than to try to stop the expo, because you can more consistently stop the keeper level 3 than the expo. Losing grunts carelessly in the early. There's entangle. You move your grunts too far out of your base or use them too cockily, let's say. Is that a word? Cockily? You could lose grunts. That's a very common error. We're even going to see pretty much every orc player we watched today, the 4 best orc players in the world, maybe top 5, they're all in the top 5, lose grunts early. Slow Shadowhunter creeping, we already touched on that, but not safe either, but also not just efficiently creeping. Shadowhunter mana is a very, very, very common mistake that people make. They're not consistently using clarities, they're not consistently buying potions of mana. People that are at a lower level in this matchup don't seem to understand how important having full mana on your Shadowhunter and then surplus clarity potions and mana potions. And we're going to see mana on the Shadowhunter is going to win games for these players. Almost on its own. Shadowhunter mana is very important. Bad scouting in general. Missing if they go winds or lores, you know. Missing if they go chimeras. Want to, right? Or was that want to asking about that? I believe it was. Yeah, it was. And micro in general, but micro's not something that you can... Micro's not something you could just will to be better, right? You know, I could go watch a bunch of my own replays right now and be like, oh, I microed that so terribly. And then I'd go and queue a ladder game and I would micro it equally as terribly. Because it just takes practice. It takes grinding. So micro, you could say bad micro. There's also, to an extent, knowing how to micro in certain matchups. Knowing what the procedure is. Me and Thorzane talked a lot about that in our interview. Or discussion, perhaps. We talked a lot about that. Knowing what you're supposed to do step by step in a fight, which is considered micro, which a micro is supposed to be a more intuitive thing, but there is a procedural step-by-step thing, so that could be getting better micro. All right. That's it. That's it. That's the episode over. Just kidding. We're going to watch replays. So keep all that in mind. How long was the intro? Oh my god, the intro was 35 minutes long. All right. You know, I try to keep these short. I really do. I try to keep the episodes in general short. When I go into them, I'm like, okay, today will be a 2-hour long episode. Today will be 2 hours. And then I get into the intro, and like I think the last couple episodes I did like an hour long. I'm pretty sure the Foggy Happy episode was like an hour and 10 minutes long. All right. All right. So I shall prepare the first replay. I think I'm through all the notes and everything. Yep. So the first replay is going to be... There's going to be some mistakes in it. Like I said, there's going to be some mistakes in all these replays. They're not perfect replays, but they are very standard replays, right? That's the important takeaway from these replays. So the first one is going to be Focus versus Colorful on Northern Isles. And we're going to be watching 4 different orc players today. They all have different styles. I would consider Focus a more conservative player. He likes to get lots of items, creep his blade up, right, and get very strong heroes, and typically go into the late game is how I would define him. Not as an overgeneralization, but, you know, it's good to overgeneralize sometimes. And then we have Who else do we have? We have Soin, who's a very by-the-book player who takes the best parts of every player that he's able to learn from and sort of does them all. And he's a very mechanical player, and he just sort of, I wouldn't say he copies other players, but he does get inspired very much by other players, Soin. Then there's Lin, who's a very strategical base player, I would say. His movement is a very important part of his game, where he moves his army, why he moves his army, what he creeps. He has a very deep understanding of where to be on the map and why he's there. And then there's Fly, who's an extremely, kind of the opposite of Focus, who's an extremely aggressive player, who makes very intuitive, heads-up plays consistently, and somehow pulls out of them with very strong mechanics. Would be my overgeneralization of these 4 Orc players that we're going to watch today. So we're going to start with Focus, who's a very conservative player. And everything should be good in the game. So here we go. Here's replay 1. Ba-ba-ba-boom. And sorry, there's no War 3 booster today because of the patch. So here's Focus. He is player 2, but that's also why I put the names down here, because Focus is, for some reason, player 2 in this replay. In the bottom left of Northern Isles, and in the top right, we do have Colorful. So there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to see every player do exactly the same. And this is going to be dependent on the map, of course. For instance, on every map, there will be a different opening creep route for the Blade, depending on what their Peon Scout sees the Night Elf doing. So we're going to see every Orc player today go for one of these Peon Scouts, which is, I'm pretty sure, something every Orc player is doing against Night Elf 100% of the time now. I believe his Burrow Peon will scout, Colorful. So depending on what this Peon scouts, he's going to have a different creep route prepared. And there's lots of these. These are very nuanced again. There's a lot of different creep routes to counter different creep routes. But essentially, he's going to be scouting the creep route with this Peon of the Night Elf, and then he's going to be reacting with his Blade based on that. In this situation, he's going to see that Colorful goes for the green camp, so he's going to go Critical Strike first, and he's going to creep level 2, is what Focus is going to do. What else could he be scouting for, you might ask? Well, there's a world in which, of course, you can creep the Tuskar first as the Night Elf. And the other option would be expansion creep first, in which case, I'm not exactly sure what the perfect response would be to the Tuskar creep first. You would have to go find a replay and see how the Orc players react to it. But against the expansion creep, I would imagine Focus would probably just take the item from here and then go and harass the expansion immediately, because there is a world in which the Ancient Ward's built right here, and the Night Elf goes for expansion first. And that's why we just saw this Peon check before running to the green camp, and now he knows where Colorful's creeping, so now we know. And so we're going to see Focus. Creep level 2.
A player's forces are under attack.
Gets a ring. That's alright. There's a marketplace. Colorful is going to creep level 2. The Peon is, of course, sticking around. We're talking about the expansion. He's sticking around to see if Colorful goes for this camp first. There is a world in which the Night Elf pulls this, entangles the Ogre Magi, creeps it right away. We see this on Concealed Hill as well. It's tricky to have the perfect response to every single creep route the Night Elf can do at all times, which is why there may be an argument that there's a better creep route with the information given than what Focus is going for. But I'm only showing you what Focus is actually doing. And he has scouted this, so I can only be left with the assumption that he's doing the correct response to the opening creep route of Colorful, right? Blade Master's going to get Salves, and he's going to continue creeping, of course. He's accepting that Colorful is going to get level 2, and going to get his own level 2, but he, of course, at least in this, he knows that Colorful isn't just going for an immediate expansion, and that's what's most important. Yeah, and some people are saying it's weird that he's not harassing right away, that he's choosing to creep level 2. This is, of course, map dependent, and also dependent on what the Peon sees. On some maps, of course, you're going to harass on level 1 still. Maps like Last Refuge, for instance, it's pretty common to do that. buys a circlet. Doesn't buy dust, interestingly, because his inventory is a little bit full, but... And let's check. Does he see the keeper here? Because, of course, in this movement across the map, he's expecting to find the keeper either here right now, after taking this Murloc, or the keeper at the expansion. If he doesn't see the keeper most likely here, he can assume the keeper is down here close to his grunt. So he's got to get this grunt out of here. And then he can probably assume that Colorful's going to be taking one of these two camps away from him, since he's not here. Right? There's also a world in which Colorful will be taking this. This is the importance of scouting again, and Focus has kind of slipped up a little bit. Yeah, the Keeper did kill the Peon, so Focus is kind of in the dark, but he at least knows the Keeper was around here before. But he doesn't see the Keeper here. He's just going to take this creep. Again, he knows he's got a little bit of time to take this, because since the Keeper's not here right now, he's most likely running down. And we can take a peek at that, and the Keeper is going to buy dust, and he's going to run down.
The player's forces are under attack.
And like I said, the Keeper his most likely spot to run is here. Focus checking for the expansion. That is, it could be built here, it could be built here, it could sometimes even be built like in the base. We're going to see this in the future. It could even be built at the red camp we see sometimes. Right?
A player's forces are under attack.
But again, Focus clears there's no expansion creep going on, so he's going to sell that. And what's he going to do? He's going to buy a Staff of Teleportation because he knows that Colorful's either here right now or at the expansion. Pretty much. So he's going to run down. He's going to find him. And herein begins the chasing of the Keeper, trying to deny the level 3 as much as possible if he can. Of course, behind this, it's just been a standard one-burrow tech, right, going into grunts. These grunts, in the meantime, have been scouting for the Ancient Protector. They scouted down here. And they should also scout up here. But notice the grunts aren't out on the map. The grunts aren't the ones right now looking for an expansion, right? They're not running up here carelessly. They're not running over here. They're not in the base attacking a Moonwell. What is Focus doing because he can't confirm if there's an expansion or not? He's sending a peon. He's sending an extra peon to go and check. One, it's the expansion might be at the red camp. This does happen from time to time. But also, more importantly, just to check if the expansion is going to be built right here. Because the grunts can't commit to going across the map or else they're going to die to the Keeper. All the grunts can do right now is scout for an Ancient Protector here, or scout for an AP here. And the Blade, of course, has to chase the Keeper around. So what do you have to do? You're forced into using a peon, which is what Focus is doing. He's going to use another peon to find that Expo, potentially. And then could even go into the main base after as well. If he does find an expansion with that peon, of course, Staff of Teleportation is a must purchase in this matchup. 100% of games, in my opinion, and from what I've seen in replays and top players, always buy a Staff of Teleportation. And I could talk for like an hour about the amount of things you can do with a Staff of Teleportation in this matchup, but I'll just point out every time that it's useful. So the first use it has is if the peon finds an expansion, he could staff to it and kill it. Or he could run to it and then staff to his grunts if he needs to. Right? Notice I said before, if you just follow the Keeper around, he will eventually lead you to the expansion, but the peon already found it. Not really a shot to cancel this. Maybe Fly would go for a cancel here, but of course, the Keeper being so close by, you're not really able to do much. And notice. Or, yeah, of course. Or you could set a peon into the elf base and deny tier 2 buildings with staff. Yeah. Which would be potentially a way of losing the Blade if he gets blocked in. But yeah, you could get... We do see that sometimes. You see the Blade go into the base if it's not blocked. Cancel the tier 2 and then staff out, which is a possibility. Good. Notice, the Blade follows the army around. He knew that the Keeper was here. He also knows that the Keeper is going to try to creep the expansion. What can the grunts do? Well, the grunts can get ready to creep with the Shadow Hunter. Efficient Shadow Hunter creeping. right? So the SH is going to come out right away, and he's going to immediately have the space to take a big camp for level 2 right away. What else is he doing? He got Brute Strength on his Grunts, Spirit Lodge, and War Mill for those armor upgrades that we were talking about earlier. This War Mill it's for a watchtower as well in the future. We'll talk about that. But first and foremost, it's for an armor upgrade right away. So Grunts, Shamans, armor upgrades. Shadowhunter, creeping speed, but only if the Keeper is known, his whereabouts. Which, of course, he is, because the Blade Master has seen that. The importance of the scouting all coming together. Like this Blade Master, for instance, he might not do anything, right? He might not get any kills. He might not get any creep steals. But what he is doing is giving his Shadowhunter space, and that's all that matters right now. Like, yes, Colorful's going to be creeping in Focus's face, but it's not important for Focus to steal any of these creeps. It's not the end of the world. It's just important for him to know where the Keeper is so that he can do this simultaneously, right? I think he does get one creep. A little bit lucky with the second crit, I'll admit. Could maybe even get an archer, but playing it safe. And the Shadowhunter is totally safe. Gets to scroll the beast. Can't complain with that. And just continue to build Grunts and Shamans. I'll try to point out, these are the kind of details that sometimes people want to know. How many Shamans do they build before they get Adept? Right? Those are some details that can maybe be a little bit annoying to not know. So I'll try to point out when they're getting Adept, but it does vary depending on the game itself. Most of the time, I believe it's after 2 Shamans. In this game, I think Focus is going to get like 4 before he gets Adept. Why does that change? No, don't quite know the answer to that, but I will try to point out to you guys when exactly they get their Adept training, just so you guys know what they're doing here. But yeah, it's just Grunts, just Shamans. He's getting his 51 supply of Burrow. He's going to get probably an armor upgrade. Let's see. Does he get it right away? Let's see how highly he's prioritizing this armor upgrade. He's got the economy for it. Not quite getting it yet, but I'll expect to see an armor upgrade there. See, Blade Master, look at the movement of the Blade Master. Now, he ran down after this expansion creep. Could Colorful have gone and just started creeping this? Sure. But what's most important? Well, his Shadowhunter wants to creep this expansion next. So the Blade Master is in a position that he will see the army if he's coming for a creepjack. So the Blade Master's whole goal right now is to keep his Shadowhunter safe, and that's why his blade movement has been as so. Keep an eye on that. Again, there's the armor upgrade. So maybe a little bit late. Could be a missed macro. Could be just didn't know if you want to get it right away. But this is pretty much 10 seconds after the War Mill gets up. You can see how highly he's prioritizing getting the upgrade. No Adept training yet. This will be the second Shaman, though, so we'll see. Keep an eye on that. Three Shamans, no Adept. And again, the Blade might not get any creeps here, right? It's unlikely with Sentinels, with Dust, with Entangle. It's unlikely he's going to get anything, but he's delaying slightly, and he's also making space for his Shadowhunter, right? This is all just space for his Shadowhunter. If he gets anything else, as I like to say, it's all gravy. If he gets anything else here. So often do I see Orc players thinking they need to get damage done with their Blade Harass. They need to, but they don't need to. The Blade Master is going to get Heal Scroll and Invuln, and the Shadowhunter is quite aware that the Creepjack is coming in. He's crept that, he got Pendant of Energy, but he's got Shamans now, so he can be less safe than he once was. Before he had Shamans, if this Creepjack happened, most likely 2 Grunts would die, maybe even the Shadowhunter would die. But now that there's 2 Shamans with a couple of Purges, Focus can be much safer. He has a Speed Scroll. He's got a way of dealing with probably all the Entangles. Yeah, there's only 1 Entangle for the Keeper, so he's totally safe. He could just run away now, and he'd be totally fine. He wouldn't lose anything. Which is why the Blade is able to go to the shop and get Invuln and able to let the Keeper Creepjack him slightly, right? Because he's got Shamans out now. Now, as I mentioned, there's going to be some mistakes in this game. This fight is going to be a pretty big mistake, I would argue, for Colorful. What is he trying to do here with this fight, Colorful himself? Well, of course he's trying to buy expansion. He's buying space for his expansion, which is not quite yet entangled. So he wants to buy space for this to pay off. He also wants to slow down the counter expansion that we're going to see soon of Focus. So he's taking a fight nearby the expansion of Focus in hopes of buying time for his own, also delaying the expansion. This isn't going to end well for him, this fight. He's not going to get a lot of damage done, so hindsight, I would argue this fight is a mistake. But that's all right. Do we see a second armor upgrade? Not quite yet. We don't see Adept yet either, but we're going to see a second armor upgrade pretty soon also. And we're going to see peons come across to counter expand once Focus knows he's safe of the threat right here, right? Yes, there's not a lot of mana on the Keeper. There's not a lot of units here, honestly, so I'd say this fight's a mistake. The Blade is low, yeah, and the Shadow's not 3, so Colorful maybe thinks this fight's a good choice, but we know this fight's probably not going to be the best choice. Is there a world in which Colorful could win this fight? Probably. He definitely win it against me, but against Focus, I don't know. I don't know. Level 3 Shadowhunter. Serpent Ward's level 2, of course. And Colorful's also kind of fighting at the power spike of the Orc. So Colorful's going to lose quite a lot. Not the greatest fight from the man, the myth, the legend. What could he have done? He probably could have gone and crept level 3 Alchemist, but instead he's got Dead Alchemist. And now, everything proceeds as normal for Focus. What did he want to do before that fight took place? Well, he just wanted to get his counter expansion underway and start pressuring Colorful, probably by pushing this expansion, to buy space for his own expansion to not be canceled. So everything's going to proceed as normal. He's probably going to get a second armor upgrade when he can afford it, and he's going to counter expand with most likely a watchtower and also an expansion. That's what we're going to see now. All things a little bit delayed due to this fight, due to the purchase of the heal scroll and the invuln, but that's what's going to be the next thing on Focus's mind in this game. Note, Focus lost no units in that fight, which isn't the easiest thing to do, but he was definitely favored in that fight going into it. We did see the Shadowhunter use that Staff of Teleportation to get back and get clarities and heal salves. Another use for it. What could it be used for now? Well, it could be used to run and cancel this Ancient Protector that's trying to deny the expansion. So Colorful's whole sort of game plan for this mid-game has been just to delay the expansion of Focus and try to get a supply advantage. And he is actually going to get a supply advantage. His expansion is mining. He's going to be on 2 Ancient War probably right now. There's a... Oh, does he have 2? Okay, he does have 2 Ancient Wars. There's the Ancient Wonders coming up. So he is going to get a supply advantage because he's managed to delay this expansion by quite a bit. A couple of minutes now, at least. But of course, he lost a couple of units in doing so. And there's the counter expansion, probably a watchtower or a burrow. More commonly, a watchtower is built here. And we're still waiting for that second armor upgrade, but of course, Focus can't quite afford it yet.
Player's forces are under attack.
And he creeps that, gets Lionhorn, which is an excellent item in this matchup, and the Blade goes back to deal with this AP. And the Blade now has the staff to get back to the army if he needs to. Another use for the staff. Keeping his army safe by having a staff on his Blade. And his Blade's doing something else. Right? Now, all Focus's movement right now is just to keep his Expo safe. That's why he's running in circles. That's why he's positioned like this. That's why he's not creeping anything too greedy. This expansion, or this shop rather, was in a position that he could still keep that Expo safe while creeping it. But all the movement right now is just to keep the expansion safe. We're going to see Focus go into the base, and this looks like, oh, it's a big push, it's a big push. No, this is all to keep the Expo safe. See, as soon as he gets into the base, he sees the whole army right here, he just runs away, because he's trying to stop this from getting canceled. This is his main goal currently. Get the expansion up. Probably another heal scroll. Can't actually tell if there's a heal scroll in the shop. He gets an invuln, so I can only guess there is not one. No, there should be one in there, but that is all right. Second armor upgrade? Okay, there's the second armor upgrade. As soon as he could afford it. As soon as he could afford it. Notice, clarity running. Always a clarity running. Focus is never not going to have mana on his Shadowhunter. And Lightning Shield, Serpent Wards, kind of all you need to win the fight. And again, Focus, I don't think lost a unit there. Neither did Colorful, but got a Town Portal, got some Wisps. And again, this is all just to keep the expansion safe, and Focus has succeeded in doing so. What do you do when your expansion's safe? Of course, you go into a Bestiary. Does he have a Kodo quite yet? Doesn't yet. I imagine he'll get a Kodo after Ensnare. Because, of course, the reason he's getting Ensnare right now, as he did get Adept after 4 Shamans, by the way. The reason he's getting Ensnare right now is because he's 49 supply. So getting anything from this Bestiary would be breaking Upkeep and doing so. Right, so he gets Ensnare, and then when he decides to break Upkeep, he's going to get a Kodo. He's going to get a Kodo, a Grunt, and a Shaman. So once your expansion is safe, which it is now after this fight, after the movement of the army, Bestiary comes up, Peons get transferred, shop gets built, you secure the expansion, and you go into a Kodo, a Grunt, a Shaman breaking Upkeep, and then into Raiders. Now, why will he go Raiders after this? You might ask yourself, as I go back to myself, you might ask yourself, like, Raiders seem kind of weird. They're good against the Huntresses, but really the damage of the Night Elf army is in Archers, right? So you want the Grunts to deal with the Archers because their end goal army is really Archers. Well, Raiders are good for a few reasons. The Kodo, of course, is self-explanatory. You want the Aura, so that's why you normally just get about 1. But the Ensnare is very important for preventing the Alchemist from healing. Some people don't know that. If you Ensnare the Alchemist while he's doing the heal spray, it actually stops him from doing that. So that's one reason why Raiders are really good. Another reason, well, they're good against Huntresses. Sure, they're great against Huntresses. They're good against buildings if you want to play hit and run, if you're in a position where you can't win a fight. They're also good. They have a very good armor type against Archers. So if you're using them as a catalyst for Lightning Shield, you cast Lightning Shield on the Raiders, they have good movement speed so they can run into the back. Medium armor actually takes reduced damage from piercing, which is what Archers deal and what Raiders have as an armor type. So they're actually very tanky against Archers, and if your goal is to get Lightning Shield on top of Archers while also canceling the heal spray, Raiders are very good at this. So they're a great unit to add. They're the best unit to add if you don't want just pure Grunt Shaman. All right, so that's why 1 Kodo into Raiders. All right, and we continue. Peons get transferred. Notice the Peons get transferred before the Expo's finished, because by the time the Peons get here, the Expo will finish. It will line up perfectly. It's beautiful. What do we see on the Shadowhunter? We see a Clarity Potion running. We see another Clarity Potion in his inventory. He has 200 mana right now. Never are we going to see the Shadowhunter at 0 mana. If we do see the Shadowhunter at 0 mana, Focus will be running away from a fight. Our Huntglade's Piercing, they are normal damage. Normal. So they do extra to Raiders. So that's what you consider a soft counter. So Raiders against Huntresses, they soft counter each other. They both do added damage to each other, but take extra damage from each other. At least that's what I would consider a soft counter. Whereas a hard counter would be my damage type is good and my armor type is good. And like we said, Colorful wants to get ahead in supply. That's why he delayed this expansion for so long. That's why he took this fight that was arguably a bad fight here. Because he wanted to delay the expansion, then hit a timing. This is a nice timing by Colorful. We can take a look at the supplies. 67 against 57. But a 10 supply advantage is about where the Night Elf is going to be most of the time. And Focus, of course, has great hero levels. He's level 4 Shadowhunter, which is a very impactful level in this matchup in particular. Most matchups, of course, you just get an extra level of Hex, right? Not too important. But in this matchup, you actually get an extra level of Heal Wave at level 4. So now you have Serpent Wards level 2 and Heal Wave level 2. So Shadowhunter level 4 is a hugely impactful level up. Blade Master level 3, almost level 4. So the hero levels are good. The upgrades are very good, 1-2. Of course, the Night Elf is going to have 2-1 as well. So this isn't a bad fight at all for Focus. Despite being down by 10 supply, it may look a little bit daunting, but all he's got to do is get a big snake pit, as Neil likes to say, of Serpent Wards up. Ideally get the grunts on top of the archers with Lightning Shield, and just purge away the treants every single time they get summoned. And consistently use Clarity Potions, Mana Potions on the Shadowhunter. That's what he has to do to win the fight.
Town is under siege.
Notice he purges those bad boys away right away. No reason to be stingy with the mana. The treants do bulk up quite a bit and do a lot of damage, so just get rid of those treants immediately if you have the mana. This positioning could be slightly better for Focus, but he does have at least a couple of grunts on the archers with Lightning Shield. And he's starting to get Serpent Wards up. Certainly not an easy fight for Focus. Definitely a fight he could lose, but this game has been close to even throughout, so... Notice, Mana Pot immediately. But now, the snakes are starting to be established. There comes a point when the Night Elf cannot deal with them. Clarity, notice, the mana management is excellent. If the Shadowhunter did not have mana, he would have just lost 3 grunts right there. Mana Pot, Clarity, Clarity running. Always, always mana on the Shadowhunter. Well, yeah, Phoenix, but Colorful did accomplish something in doing that. He delayed the expansion by arguably 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Which is no short amount of gold. Which is why the supply has a differential, but the hero levels also have a differential. Notice, why is he staffing the Shadowhunter out? Another use for the staff as well. Because he's bought every single Clarity and Mana Potion that the shop has to offer. What is he doing with the army now that the Shadowhunter's out of mana and Claritying? He's staffing to the other shop. He's staffing to the other shop. And he's moving the army away because the only way Focus can win these fights is he needs mana on the Shadowhunter. So he buys both mana pots, double Clarity from the shop. He already had 2 Clarities over here. 1 Clarity running, and even while that Clarity's running and he almost has a heal wave, he's staffing to this shop to get more mana pots and running the army away to wait for the mana. That's how important Shadowhunter mana is. Notice, mana pot, Clarity running.
A player's forces are under attack.
You may have a supply disadvantage, but if you have mana, you can win the fight. Now this positioning is much better for Focus. The grunts can get on top. The Blade bought a heal potion from the shop. And the hero levels are just going to carry Focus in this fight. Lightning Shield on the grunts. And really, once you break through the wall of Huntresses, as long as you still have some grunts alive, like 5 grunts are going to kill like 14 archers. Maybe 16 archers. Grunts and Blade Master with Lightning Shield are just going to kill every single archer they have. That's why we see people continue to build Huntresses, because you need to break through the wall of Huntresses to get to the archers. If you just get to the archers right away, if you can just speed scroll on top of them and start killing them, archers really don't live that long. They really don't live that long. Which is what we're going to see start to happen now. As soon as the grunts break through to the archers, all the archers die, and GG is called. And that's replay 1. So again, like I said, not a perfect replay. There was a relatively large mistake from Colorful in the mid-game. Level 3 heal, I do believe that would be level 3 heal at level 5, yes. If it's mostly archers, then you'll go level 3 heal, right? But if it's mostly Huntresses, which is rare, you'd go level 3 wards. If it's Talons, you'd probably go level 3 wards. If it's Dryads, you'd probably go level 3 wards. But against mass archers, level 3 heal, absolutely. So in that position, that would have been level 3 heal. All right. So what can we take from that replay that were some important factors that Focus did really well? What are some things? I got a couple. Maybe you guys have a couple. The first thing I would say is Shadowhunter mana. That was a huge priority. How much gold was spent on the Shadowhunter mana? Probably, 4 mana pots, maybe 8 clarities in a 12-minute game. Yeah, probably about 1,000 gold, right? Probably 1,000 gold. You don't have to commit too hard with the blade in the early? Absolutely. Don't overcommit blade. The blade is just there to scout and to keep your Shadowhunter safe. It's not there to do anything crazy. You're not there to kill the keeper. You're not there to kill archers. You're not there to steal creeps. You're not there to cancel the expansion even. So many Orc players think, I have to cancel the expansion. They'll even ask the question of, how many times am I supposed to cancel the expansion? You don't have to cancel the expansion. You don't have to. If you can, absolutely go for it. But you don't have to. You don't have to. You just have to have the scouting. Yes, staff usage for sure. Staff usage. I often buy staff and use it once the whole game. Absolutely. Just use it off cooldown. So let's think about what did Focus use it for? He used it there to scout for the expansion with his blade, but he always had the option of getting back to his Shadowhunter. So that staff isn't to keep his blade safe. His blade has Windwalk. That staff is actually to keep his army safe. Right? And then what else did he do with it? He then later on transferred it to his Shadowhunter to buy items from the shop. When the Shadowhunter runs out of mana, Shadowhunter is useless out of mana. Blademaster has critical strike, right? Keeper, or rather Alchemist, is tanky in the front line, so you can keep him there for the, he actually has pretty good auto attack damage. There's heroes that are good without mana. Demon Hunter is good without mana. He's got evasion, he tanks pretty well, right? A lot of heroes have auras without mana, right? TC is good without mana. Shadowhunter doesn't do anything without mana. So when the Shadow runs out of mana, it doesn't matter he's not in the fight. Staff him back to the shop, get clarities, get mana pots, run him back. Another usage for it. We're going to see a huge use of the staff in the second replay we watch for Soin. And this is going to be something that's very important, actually, for creating advantages in this matchup. So yeah, staff usage. Grunt armor ASAP, great. Grunt upgrades, let's say 0, 2 to 2, 2. How about that? Is this on Last Refuge? This is also on Northern Isles, but then we do have a replay on Last Refuge, and we do have a replay on Echo Isles, lastly. Those are probably the big takeaways. No, he did have +1 attack upgrade at the end of the game, and if the game went on for longer, he would have gotten 2-2. 2-2 is always the goal for the grunt upgrades, but you just prioritize armor upgrades. Faking attack to buy time for counter expo. Yeah, buying time for counter expo. And this point right here, that I'm going to highlight, this point right here, can be done in many different ways. In this game, we saw it by Focus leveraging his stronger army because he won that fight in the mid game that Colorful overextended during. He used this by leveraging his army, but there's other ways we can do it. We're going to see Lin with a very, very creative way of buying time for his expansion in the third replay today. We're going to see Soin with an extremely creative way, but a more standard way of buying time for his expansion in the second replay. So yes, absolutely think about that. What are some ways I can buy time for my expansion to not get canceled? Why is Keeper casting Trance if they get instantly dispelled? That's probably a good question for Night Elf players. I would imagine it's to try to dry out the Shaman mana so that there's less Lightning Shield, of course. So yes, you're feeding experience in the fight to the heroes, but you're taking less damage in the fight because there's less Lightning Shield. And eventually, if the Shamans run completely out of mana, the Entangle can then go for like a hero kill, for instance. So I'd imagine that's why. And of course, the more efficient way to get rid of Shaman mana is to use Treants, then to use Entangle. Because if you use Entangle, that's 75 mana for one Purge, whereas you get 3 Treants for one cast of level 2, right? Wouldn't swap to Thorns be better? That's something people mention very often, but Treants and Entangle can get a lot of value. I mentioned again, once the Shamans are out of mana, you can go for things like hero kills with level 2 Entangle very easily. Treants are also very good for scouting and for pressuring peons at expansions and stuff like that. Both can be very good. But yeah, you do see sometimes people go for Thorns or on level 4. That's absolutely right. Can Night Elf go fairies? Not often in this style of play. But consider tier 3 also Bloodlust and Pitlord. Yeah, I did try to find a game where both players go tier 3 and the Orc goes tier 3 and gets Bloodlust with a Pitlord third. I did actually really try to find a game of that to show you guys an example. Unfortunately, I couldn't. So I'm forced to assume that it's not something people play because I didn't see one game of that, at least that the Orc won while doing. But of course, that is a very standard way to play the late game. I just couldn't find any replays for that. Okay, good. So there's some points that we get from this replay. And we're going to take a 3-minute break because I drank a lot of tea and I got to go to the bathroom. And we'll be back with replay 2. 3 minutes. Real quick. Be right back. All right, we're back. So let's keep those points. Let's keep those points in mind. And remember, the Venn diagram of these 4 different Orc players we're going to watch. We're going to see what do they all do consistently the same. What are some things that differ between these players? And then the things that consistently stay the same, we can say with confidence, okay, let's incorporate those into our play. Right? That's the idea here. Appreciate that, Mindhunters. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Okay. Replay 2 will be Soin versus LawLiet on Northern Isles. LawLiet probably going to be the strongest opponent. Do I have a Moon replay? No, I do not have a Moon replay today. Yeah, so LawLiet's going to be the strongest Night Elf opponent that we have today. So LawLiet's going to do a lot of impressive stuff, but Soin is going to do a couple things, maybe even a little bit more impressive. And if you're not aware of the play that Soin's going to do this game, it's going to blow your mind as an Orc player. When I started doing this in my games, it feels really good. It feels like one of those situations that's like checkmate. Like, what does the elf do? Don't know. So someone's going to do a very cool play. A very standard play that if you're an advanced player, you might be, yeah, I do that all the time. Whatever. But if you're a player that has not seen this before, game-changing, baby. Game-changing. So replay 2 will be on Northern Isles, Soin against LawLiet. Here we go. So here's Soin in the bottom left. Luckily not player 1 this time. In the top right, we do have LawLiet. These are 2 players that play each other all the time, right? So they're very familiar. I was talking at the beginning of the episode about the metagaming, lots of different stuff. You never know if the Night Elf player is going to like hide 16 APs over here, if they're going to creep their expansion first, or they're going to go Demon Hunter or Potom or Warden first. But these players know each other so intimately that they're probably going to have a gentleman's agreement to playing relatively standard, and this game, of course, is going to be standard. What's my MMR? It's like a 1800, 1850, around there. Although I do not get around to playing too much anymore. I just watch replays. That's pretty much what I do. I watch replays and I cast games. But yeah, around 1800, 1850. I'm certainly not very good by any standard. All right. So we'll be a keeper, we'll be a blade master. Again, we're going to see a very similar early game from at least Soin. I believe LawLiet's going to do something a bit different from Colorful. Remember what Colorful did last game. He crept this, then he crept this, and then he ran down to the big Murloc, in which that's where Focus found Colorful. This game, LawLiet might do something slightly different, but Soin's going to do nothing different. Peon scout. This peon was most likely going to scout the expansion and then find the Ancient of War. The blade will go crit first when he sees the Ancient of War and creep to level 2. Right? Alright, maybe by some standards it's all right.
A player's forces are under attack.
But for the amount of time I've played the game, it's probably not that good. Right? Let's say that. How about? Oh, don't deny the creep. Okay, LawLiet with perfect creeping as always. I was like, I didn't see that when I watched the replay. Oh, and one thing, okay, slightly different. Soin actually doesn't go to the expansion first. I like Focus's scouting better than Soin's this game. I will say that. I like Focus's scouting route better. They're both going to have the same end result. He's going to find the Keeper in the Ancient War here, but I like that Focus checked the expansion first. Just so he has the option to only take the item and also wait to skill Critical Strike, of course, before he scouts if there's no expansion creep first. And see, I think Toxie was pointing this out in the chat earlier. There's a world in which the Night Elf can go for the expansion second, which is a very strong creep route. What is the proper response from the Orc? Possibly to take the item, then to run up immediately. Which is why maybe going Critical Strike this early. Maybe you wait to see if the Keeper's going to the expansion before you skill Critical Strike. Maybe that's an option. I don't know. I'd have to ask my my experts on that one. But still level 2, nevertheless, the Peon Scouts. The tech coming through on 1 burrow, builds those 2 burrows. And now, probably Dust, Circlet. We saw Focus not getting Dust last game. Apparently no Dust at all. Is the gold a little shy? No. But no Dust. That's fine. And now, of course, the Peon knew about this creeping. So Soin's going to check if the expansion's coming up. He sees that it's not, but the Peon the whole time, note, is on top of the Keeper. Yeah, no speed scroll, worth noting. Which Focus did buy a speed scroll last game. Staff of Teleportation. See how important it is. He doesn't buy Dust, but he buys the Staff of Teleportation. This is an interesting play. Now, I'm going to give you what my guess is on this, but I don't know for sure. Here's my guess of this play. Soin is going over to this Tuskar camp. He most likely knows LawLiet's not here. Now, what does he know? He knows this camp's taken, this camp's taken, and this camp's taken. He also knows that LawLiet was not going to this camp. So he knows more than likely LawLiet's probably going here or here. He buys Staff of Teleportation from the shop, and then he runs over. And now we're going to see Soin take away this Ogre Magi. Now, this is one of those situations where, yeah, probably if I was playing this game, I would have chased the Keeper forever and ever and never let off. I probably would have been chasing the Keeper right now. But in this case, Soin understands LawLiet, where he's going. Probably he has a guarantee on where he knows the Keeper is going to be going. So he thinks, okay, the Keeper is going to be traveling across the map. In this time, I'll steal away an important camp and consumable from him. And then I'll use the Staff of Teleportation to get to the other side of the map really quickly and then start harassing the Keeper. Is it a good play? Debatable. Is that actually why he was doing this? Who knows? But that's my reasoning for why I think he's doing this. Note the grunts don't know where the Keeper is exactly, so they're staying at home. And Soin does steals away, gets pushed a greater mana, and then he's able to staff back to the bottom of the map. And his blade misses this Ancient Protector, but the grunts, of course, know what their job is. Their job this whole time is just to find this Ancient Protector. That's all your grunts pretty much do. Like, there is a world in which your grunts can maybe come out and fight if there's just a Keeper, but if the Keeper's with a Hunt and an Archer and is almost level 3... you actually, on replays, you actually cannot see the hero's skills in where my cursor's under, unfortunately. And unfortunately, War 3 Booster doesn't work, and unfortunately, the Back to Warcraft overlay is a little buggy in replays. Series of unfortunate events. But back to the point. The Grunt's whole job in the early game, before the Shadowhunter is out, and before there's Shamans most of the time, just to find these ancient protectors. So that's what the grunts are doing. Well, the Blade Master, his whole job is to stop the keepers creeping, or to stop the expansion, or both if you can. Yeah, if I could be using an overlay right now, I absolutely would. I wish, that's why I like using War 3 Booster, but it just doesn't work because there was a patch, which is very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But the Keeper's level 3, which isn't great. Like, this is why I would say that this was a debatable play from Soin. Right? Because he allowed the Keeper to get level 3 by taking this camp right here. Whereas he could have just chased the Keeper and maybe all it takes is like 1 steal here, maybe 2 steals, and he keeps that Keeper on level 2 for quite a while longer because this Murloc's already gone. So the only camp that LawLiet can take other than the small Murloc is one of these big camps. He's got to commit to the expansion or the Tuskar here or the lab, right? So if Soin is in position to deny this Murloc camp, then the Keeper's level 2 for a much longer time. Which is why I think getting this, although he gets a greater mana, might win him the game in the future. Might have been a debatable play. LawLiet, note, he knows where the blade is, so he's putting up his expansion. Now that he knows where the blade is. Soin probably quite aware of this. Note the grunts, hiding, cowarding in the base. Shadowhunter out, brute strength, Spirit Lodge. Warmill will come up probably pretty soon. Perhaps right now. There it is, right now. Note how much this is prioritized for these Orc players. A similarity. That peon just went down here to scout for the Ancient Protectors because he didn't know if the Keeper was hiding in the shadows. Now the Shadowhunter is probably very scared right now because he doesn't know where the Keeper is. So that's what the Blade's trying to do. He's trying to find the Keeper. Right now, the Shadowhunter is risking a grunt because he doesn't know where the Keeper is. But in this moment, the Shadowhunter is now safe to creep this. So this movement from Soin was not actually safe, especially with this beautiful archer from LawLiet. That is so nice. I think this is such a great play from LawLiet. Especially with Ultra Vision. Especially with Ultra Vision, it's very good. So this was not safe. He did risk 1 grunt here. But now that his Blade has found the Keeper in the army, now his Shadowhunter is relatively safe to take this for the time being. He actually snags the item. Like I said earlier, all the harass is gravy. Anything you can get is beautiful, so he's putting some damage on the Keeper. He's stealing the item. He's delaying the creeping. It's all gravy, because all he's really trying to do is scout to keep his Shadowhunter safe. We'll also keep an eye again. I said keep an eye on how many Shamans he builds before going for Adept. Last game, Focus went for 4 and then Adept. This game, we'll see if it's any different. If it is any different, I can't exactly tell you why, but the most standard, again, is 2 Shamans, then Adept training. And the Shadowrunner gets level 2. Actually gets another Potion of Greater Mana. Now, why is the Blade able to go this aggressive right now? Because he's got the Staff of Teleportation. Would he be able to do this if the Keeper ran down? Probably not. But once there's a Shaman out, he could be this aggressive because the Shadowhunter doesn't have to be afraid of Entangle anymore because now he's got a Purge for that single Entangle. And there is only a single Entangle currently. Nope, there is a Warmill, just at a different spot from Focus last game. So the Blade's able to be this aggressive because of the Staff of Teleportation, and there's also soon to be a Shaman. This is why the Blade's able to run all the way up here. Also, the army's chasing him, which is nice. He sees the expansion. And you might be thinking like, okay, he staffs out. The staff just saved his Blade's life. You might be thinking like, this is going pretty poorly for Soin. The Keeper got level 3. His Blade just had to staff out. Now he doesn't know where the Keeper is. The expansion's up. How can you make a play that can get you back in the game? Well, think about the position right now for Soin. His base is pretty safe because he's got burrows and there's only huntresses. So burrows are very good against huntresses. He's got serpent wards that are going to start to pile up here. Once there's 3 or 4 serpent wards, very easy to win a fight against huntresses. He's got a Staff of Teleportation on his Blade. He's got Shamans out to deal with the Entangle. He's soon to have 2 Shamans out to deal with the Entangle. So there's not a big threat of a Creepjack. There's also not a big threat of a push into his main base. Because he can defend it relatively well, even if the Blade isn't here. The blade has Staff of Teleportation. What can the blade do? We're going to see. This is a very common play that is that checkmate play that I mentioned earlier. This is an extremely strong play that Soin's about to make. Bot, I believe, Slippers of Agility there. Shadowhunter's creeping. He doesn't have to be too afraid because he's got a speed scroll and he's got shamans, finally. Which is why the blade can be a little bit more greedy. Okay. So, Slippers equal checkmate. Got it. So, like I said, if you're a more advanced player, you might very well know this play. But if you're not, this is an extremely strong play. The Blade Master is now going to be threatening canceling the Entangled Goldmine. The Blade Master can do this indefinitely because he has a Staff of Teleportation. He doesn't have a Windwalk, which is a little risky. But if he has a Windwalk and the Staff, there's no way the Blade dies. Because he can Windwalk away. If he gets entangled, he can then Staff out. If he gets entangled, he can just Staff out immediately. He's got everything he needs to get out. The Blade Master can indefinitely stop this mine from entangling unless the army comes back to defend it. What does it mean when the army comes back to defend the mine from getting canceled when it's just the blade? Well, the blade can Staff away, and in the meantime, the Shadowhunter is as free as he's ever been to creep to level 3. What else is free? Well, the expansion that's about to go up. So, Soin is committing a Blade Master that is completely safe to denying the win condition of LawLiet, which the win condition is to be on 2 bases for a while and get lots of archers, I would argue. So this play is a checkmate because LawLiet has to react to this, or else his second base will not be online. But he also really would love to stop the Shadowhunter from getting level 3 and would also really love to stop the expansion from getting up. So the table's turned now. LawLiet has to react to this. And it's just such a sick play. Just look at how much this blade does. So much space. And LawLiet can't just push the army. 1, because the blade could just come back if he really needed to. But 2, because Soin can just run away. And he's got Purge, he's got a speed scroll, and he can just put up a bunch of Serpent Wards here. And if there's 5 Serpent Wards up, LawLiet can't fight into it. LawLiet could fight like right here, for instance, because there's no wards already preemptively set up. But a defensive place where there are already wards set up, the Night Elf cannot fight into. Which is why this is such a sick play. And the gold mine will be canceled. This gold mine will not mine for a while longer. And that tower comes up. Just using the time the blade is buying him to secure the expansion. And yeah, LawLiet's going to come down here and try to fight the Shadowhunter, but the Shadowhunter can just leave. And you might ask yourself, who has the advantage when it's 1 base, 1 base? Because technically right now, 1 base, this base isn't mining, so it's 1 base, 1 base. The Orc has the advantage in 1 base, 1 base. So the longer this goes on for, the better it is for Soin. Because he's getting more Shaman, he's getting higher mana on the Shaman, he's waiting for upgrades to come through, he's creeping his Shadowhunter up, which his heroes scale better in the late game. The longer this goes on for, the Blade canceling the gold mine and LawLiet trying to like chase the army around, the better it will be for Soin. So this is all good for Soin, as long as he doesn't like overcommit and lose a bunch in a fight. More of a Zugzwang. If it's checkmate, there is no reaction, the game will be over. Good, good. A nice point. Is that the term for a chess move when there is no good move? Is that what that is? Because I remember a term. I forget exactly what that means. But yeah, good, good. Agreed, agreed. Because there is a term for that. I forget what it is. It's in something. It's like some European language word. Russian, maybe. Russian word. If you move, you have disadvantage. Yeah, okay, that is the word that I was searching for. Okay, I've just heard it pronounced differently than it's being spelt right now. German? I don't know.
Are under attack.
Like I said, I think it's a different word I'm thinking of. Because it sounded very different when I heard it than how it's being spelled right now. But notice, again, the expansion is not mining. And Soin has a tower up, Would LawLiet be able to break this with this army he has? No. There's a tower up. There's going to be Serpent Wards here. Entangle is not a guaranteed kill. There's going to be a shop here soon. So he could dive in and get a cancel, but he's going to lose units in doing so, and still his expansion will not be mining.
A player's forces are under attack.
A beautiful play. And this isn't something Soin just made up on the spot, right? Or else that would be like mind-blowing. This is a very standard play in high-level Orc against Elf games. But it's hard to get the perfect timing because you need to be at the gold mine in time to cancel it, but you also need your army to be safe enough that your blade is not with it while you're doing this, right?
A town is under siege. A player's forces are
And,
under
okay,
attack.
so Soin delays the gold mine for a very long time. LawLiet's army is very small because he would have already mined a few hundred gold off this. He would have been pumping off 2 Ancient Wars this whole time. Look, there's no bank at all. He can't even break upkeep. So Soin says, okay, you can cancel my expansion. I got a tower there. You're going to take damage. I'm just going to march across the map with my now level 3 Shadowhunter with mana. Clarity. Mana pot, Staff of Teleportation to get back to the shop if he runs out of mana. And I'm just going to force you to fight me. Because if LawLiet loses his expansion and all Soin has to do is cancel his Great Hall, that's a great trade for Soin. And of course, like I said earlier, if it's one base, the Orc is happy with that. So this is, again, a great play. He's going to be trading his Great Hall, which is not up yet. It's not a wasted gold. He's just going to cancel it and lose a little bit. He's going to be trading it for either a forced fight at the expansion that he is going to win, or just a dead expansion of LawLiet.
A town is under siege.
So again, just
Forces are under
beautifully
attack.
played. Beautifully played by Soin. And LawLiet cannot win this fight if he tries to defend the expansion, and the expansion has not mined anything yet. So yes, the Great Hall has been cancelled, yes, the tower has been killed, but this is a good trade for Soin.
A player's forces
Expansion's dead. LawLiet uses his time pretty well and takes a big camp on the map, but still Soin's in a great position. Note, the expansion didn't successfully get up, so we're not actually seeing a Bestiary from Soin, because Bestiary is used to break upkeep. If you can't break upkeep, no point really going for the Bestiary. What we will typically see in this situation, when both players lose their expansion, and again, I tried to find a replay of this, but I couldn't actually find a replay, we'll very often see the Orc player go for Tier 3. What will they go for Tier 3 for? Well, of course, more upgrades. But more importantly, Bloodlust on their Shamans. Also increased mana and all that on the Shamans. And a Pit Lord third. So very often when it's one base, both players' expansion gets canceled, expansion gets killed. A common response is to go Tier 3 in this position. Which is something Soin could have done this game. And if the game would have gone on a little while longer, perhaps Soin would have. But we're not going to see it this game, but just note that that is a common response, and you might see that when you watch games in the future, but we're not going to see it today, unfortunately. I wish I had a replay to show you guys that, but this would be the exact situation in which you would go Tier 3, though. Right here. Zero 1 upgrades. There should be, yep, 0-2 on the way. There's a priority on that again. Take a look at the Shadowhunter's mana. Full with a greater mana, with the Staff of Teleportation. No threat of running out of mana anytime soon. Book of the Dead is pretty great against Shamans, but Soin's just going for the hero focus. Because he just forced a town portal, he's going to get the kill. Would he be able to win this fight without that hero focus? Most likely. And Soin, instead of going Tier 3, decides to expand again. Probably a valid choice as well, but the more common, in my opinion, would be in my experience, I guess, would be to go tier 3 here. But another attempt at an expansion is good. There's just a risk of that getting canceled, and then Soin maybe giving up a slight advantage. Because this expansion, you know, if LawLiet just decides to run across the map and cancel it, not much you can do other than catching him when he's trying to run across the map. Soin has a very spooky Blade Master, though. I guess he bought another Slippers? He must have. Good, Freeman. Very good. Very good. And Soin doesn't have to break upkeep. He's got his 0-2 grunts. He's got his mana on his Shadowhunter. Should honestly probably have a heal scroll right now, but we can see when the Serpent Wards start to pile up if they're not dealt with, it's very difficult for the Night Elf to win a fight. If they're able to kill these Serpent Wards consistently, it gets a little bit harder for the Orc, but if you're able to get this Snake Pit up, very strong. And LawLiet tries to deal with this expansion, but Fortified underway. And somebody asked earlier about Fortified, and when would be the typical time to get Fortified. Generally, you'll get it after your 0-2 upgrades. So you can get it before you start getting attack upgrades. We didn't see that for the focus game last, but if you would like to get Fortified, generally you'll still prioritize getting 2 armor upgrades first. And we can see how effective Raiders would be if there was the economy to get them. But yeah, and this whole game, this whole victory was just leveraged off of the gold mine cancels, right? That's it. He didn't allow LawLiet to get on 2 base economy. If you don't allow this base to get off the ground with 2 base economy, the Orc is at a big advantage in all these fights, and we're seeing Soin just push into the Night Elf base and win a fight. Here's an important point, though. He runs out of mana, and what does he do? He ran out of mana, and he literally speed scrolled away from a base in which he was about to break and staffed his Shadowhunter back to get mana. That's how important this is. You cannot win a fight without Shadowhunter mana. Staff Teleportation coming into play again. Bestiary now coming up because there's a slight bank for Soin, and also note, his expansion is safe. When your expansion is safe, you can build that Bestiary, get that Ensnare, then that Kodo, then go into Raiders. And break upkeep with that Kodo, right? Just like last game, very standard. And the Shadowhunter, what does he get? Mana Pot, Clarity, Clarity. Very, very important. Blade Master, a little bit scared here for the Blade, but it'll be alright. Okay, guys, okay, I'll never bring up chess concepts again, okay? I'm sorry, okay? No need to argue in the chat, alright? I'll never bring up chess ever again in my life. In fact, I quit today. Note, there's also has been a tier 3 tech for LawLiet. So, I mentioned before, when both players lose their expansions, very typically do both players just go tier 3. And honestly, if the game goes into a late macro game, both players will still go tier 3. But LawLiet does the typical response in that, okay, one base, I'll go tier 3, you go tier 3. I'll get Tri-Hero with Double Orb and see if I can do it. But Soin didn't. Soin just went for another expansion. And pushed his advantage in the way of just continuing to take fights. But generally in this situation, like, you know, Soin would have a Pit Lord, he'd have Bloodlust. He would still be very far ahead, Soin, in this situation, if he had not gone for another expansion. No, I'm not quitting. I'm quitting chess. I'm quitting chess, guys. I'm quitting chess. I'm not quitting Warcraft. Don't worry. We got a show next week, too, and a show the week after that. Don't worry. There's still shows. Blade dies, doesn't matter. WW, that was meant to be a GG. Soin and LawLiet are good friends, so. Okay, so there's replay 2. So what were some differences in that game? Let's think. What were some differences? What were some big differences? Well, Soin went for a slightly different creep route. He let the keeper get level 3. But LawLiet did a much stronger creep route, so it was more difficult to stop the keeper from getting level 3. He went for chat checkmated Carson. So he went for that very creative play with the Blade Master canceling the gold mine, but still the staff usage was good. So here, this is what I'm going to do. I'll put a star next to the ones that he did take advantage of. So staff usage was incredibly good. It was just a different usage of it. Buying time for counter expansion was extremely good, but it's just a different way of buying time for the counter expansion. He still prioritized grunt upgrades, but he then went into reinforced instead of getting the 2 attack upgrades. Did he overcommit his blade? No, he certainly didn't. And his Shadowhunter mana was very important, as we saw on the speed scroll away. So these 5 things were still the same. As was the build order of once his expansion gets up, he builds that bestiary and gets the ensnare into the Kodo, right? All similar things. Is there anything new that we should put on this list now that we've seen 2 replays, guys? Is there anything new? Maybe we'll put the bestiary timing that I just mentioned. Maybe that's bestiary timing. Maybe I'll put a question mark next to it. That's pretty common, right? Anything new? Anything you guys can think of? Like someone could afford the expo, the one that didn't get canceled because he won the fight. If the fight didn't happen, he probably would have gone tier 3 versus tier 3. I think that's probably a reasonable explanation for that, for sure. For sure. Right. Yeah, you can take the expo trade as the orc. You can take that. Now, I'll be waiting later with bated breath for the message from Hitman saying, no, elf on 1 base has the advantage, but from my experience, I believe 1 base orc has the advantage. In standard, Hunt, Archer, Keeper, Alchemist versus Blade Master, Shadowhunter, Grunt, Shaman. Standard, orc has the advantage. Don't quote me on it, though. Don't quote me on it. What happens if the orc starts creeping with the grunt even earlier? Will the advantage raise? What do you mean by earlier? Do you mean with the Shadowhunter earlier or with the Blade Master earlier? Can't find Demolishers on that list. For me, standard on ladders, Demon Hunter Talons these days, unfortunately. It is a tricky strategy to defeat. Oh, with the BM in the early game? So the issue with I'll cover both points on that. One, you can creep with the grunts and the Blade Master together, and that would be generally creeping Blade Master to level 3. The issue with that is you give the Keeper a lot of space to get his own level 3 and to get an expansion undelayed, which is advantage for Night Elf. Because if they get level 3 Keeper, they can very easily run into your base, entangle peons, they can entangle grunts before you have shamans out. They can get a lot of damage done if their Keeper level 3 is absolutely not delayed at all. And if their expansion is not delayed, we've already mentioned how important that is for the Night Elf to have 2 base. If you creep with just the grunts and not the Blade Master, well, you can do that, but you need perfect scouting on the Keeper, because if the Keeper creepjacks just your grunts, chances are you're going to lose 1 or 2 grunts during that creepjack, which is why we saw Soin, when he didn't have perfect information on where the Keeper was, he just AFK'd his grunts in his base, which is the most standard way to do it. But yeah, if your blade is on top of the Keeper, and your grunts are just sitting idle not doing anything, you should be scouting for Ancient Protectors, but you can also take little green camps. Maybe you can creep like the remnants of a green camp that your blade crept with you earlier. That's absolutely fine to do, for sure. But only if you know exactly where the Keeper is, I would say. Yeah, Raze, the window in which level 2 Entangle cannot be dispelled is what we are fearing by letting that Keeper get level 3. BM's still the best hero on paper? Let the chat debate it. I don't know. Don't have an opinion on that. There are a lot of strong heroes currently. Crypt Lord's very strong. I would argue Lich is very strong. Warden, Demon Hunter, Blade Master, Farseer, Torn Chieftain, Mountain King, Archmage. What else? I mean, Keeper is on paper pretty good too, but it's like for different reasons. A lot of really good heroes in this game. What's the best? Panda's very good. A lot of really good heroes. Is Blade the best? Historically, he probably has been. Is he right now? I don't know. Okay, replay number 3 will be, we'll finally get to see Lyn. So what I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the styles of all these players, I mentioned Focus was a very conservative player. He plays very passive. He likes to creep his heroes up. He doesn't want to be bothered too much. You know, that's an oversimplification, but that's how I view Focus. I view Soin as like a chameleon. He takes the best parts of every player that he watches, and he does study a lot of different Orc players. And he takes the best parts of them and sort of copies their game plans a lot of the time. He plays a lot like Hitman sometimes because he watches a lot of Hitman replays and, of course, Lyn replays and all that. That's how I'd view Soin. Lyn, I mentioned, he's got extremely good micro, but a lot of the time he's the most strategic-minded Orc player, which is why he's kind of the best Orc player sometimes to learn from, because he's not always winning with just crazy micro like Soin and Fly sometimes do, or even Focus. He's most of the time winning with very good creep routes, very good understanding of when to attack and when to not, very good map movement. So we're going to see some of that brilliance from Lyn in this game. And then Fly is going to be the last replay. He's a very aggressive player, I would say, classically. Again, oversimplifications. You might not agree with those. It's fine. Just to give, you know, some backbone to each of these replays. All right, so replay 3. It'll be on Last Refuge, Lyn against Foggy. I think Lyn has an amazing micro sub 60 food once a game that he's kind of slow versus the other player, but he's a genius. Yeah, he's certainly one of the, probably the smartest Orc player, I would say. And probably the best Orc player of all time, in my opinion. So here's Lyn, the greatest Orc player of all time. And we'll see what he does differently here. He's going to do a couple things a lot differently. But don't worry. Don't worry, we'll walk through it together. So here's replay 3. Here in the bottom left is Lyn. In the top right, we do have Foggy. So Last Refuge, we've of course just watched 2 games of Northern Isles. And, you know, we saw both players creep to level 2. Of course, there'll be different creep routes on Northern Isles, and there'll also be different creep routes on Last Refuge. But what we most typically see is the Orc player just go for these priests early on. One or both of them. So we're not going to see Lyn creep level 2. We're going to instead see him creep about like 1.7. Some things don't change, though, and the Peon Scout does not change, of course. But it would be a very complicated episode, and it would be quite the headache for me to try to figure out and understand every creep route and every nuance to every creep route, which is why I say this is what we most typically see. And, you know, it would be hard for me to have an exact answer on, you know, what is the perfect creep route in every situation, because there's a lot of them. Sometimes you take the whole green camp. Sometimes you take just the item from the green camp. Sometimes you take just the item and then your priest. Sometimes you take just the item and then their priest. Sometimes you creep level 2. Sometimes you instant harass with a fast shop. There's a lot of options, and they're all meant to counter, because Orc is a reactionary race in this matchup. They're all meant to counter different things the Night Elf does. So I would be lying if I told you I knew why and when all these different creep routes happen. But in this case, we're just going to note what Foggy's doing and what Lyn's doing to react to it.
A player's forces are under attack.
2 burrow. I can only guess this is because very often on Last Refuge, we will see the Night Elf player just take the item, finish these 2 trappers with the Archer and the Ancient War, go Treants and immediately run down to cancel the Orc's second burrow if they go for a 1 burrow tech. So I can only guess this quicker second burrow is to stop the second burrow cancel. And also, on maps like Last Refuge, you can skip getting your shop because you're immediately going very far out on the map to take the priest. So often you'll skip your shop. So this is only a 10 extra lumber cost to get, and it keeps your second burrow much more safe than it otherwise would be. That's my reasoning for this. There may be a deeper reason, but I believe that's why. Foggy's going to creep. The peon has scouted the keeper. Of course, you don't need to really scout where the Ancient War is, because most often it's going to always be here, but peon going to scout all this. And the keeper's going to kill that peon because Foggy realizes how important the information is the Blade is gaining. The Blade going to buy a circlet, and he's going to creep the priest immediately. How you decide between their priest and yours? Again, not 100% sure, but I believe there's two ways. So you can either decide, I'm going to take both priests or one priest. In this case, Lynn's going to take both priests. So he starts with his, and then he's going to go immediately to Foggy's. If he wanted to take one priest, he would take this, and then he would creepjack Foggy at the Murlocs. But instead, he's going to take both. I believe that is how he decides between doing one or both.
Are under attack.
But if you take just their priest, you do have a beautiful timing to creepjack them at the Murlocs, right? But Foggy's aware of this. And then it's going to get both priests. Wand of Illusion and Replenishment Potion. This is also another reason why you can skip the shop, because you can very often get Replenishment Potions. And we said a common mistake orcs make is they lose a grunt in the early game. I wouldn't call this a mistake, so to speak. It's just Foggy being more aggressive than Lynn guessed, I would imagine. And Lynn almost saves this. Notice he's got the illusion there to block. If the keeper runs up to get the last hit, he would have wind-walked and probably killed the keeper if he did. But the creeps are going to kill this grunt. So Lynn almost saved this grunt beautifully. But he's not going to. Unlucky. Note, Lynn is checking, I believe, for the Murloc, but he should know there's no way for Foggy to creep the Murloc because he doesn't have Treants. And he doesn't have this first Huntress out yet. So he's going to check, I imagine, the Murlocs, but he doesn't really have to be afraid. But the important thing is, he's got the illusion following the Keeper, and he knows the Keeper's going back to heal at the Moonwells. But the illusion is still going to be the thing that scouts the Keeper for this early game. Maybe Lynn also, he might just be scouting. Yeah, he's just scouting if there's an expansion or not, I would guess, as well. But still, all standard. Shop coming up after the tech. Third burrow, grunts coming out. And the Blade is just going to chase the Keeper around. Lynn probably is the easiest orc to follow in the early game because he most often does just chase the Keeper around. He does this more than Fly, Soin, and Focus, all of them. He just chases the Keeper around. Hitman also does this where he just chases the Keeper around. Other orcs do a bit different things. They take creeps, but Lynn just loves to keep the Keeper on ideally level 2 or level 1, right? And the illusions are helping out quite a bit. He's just going to chase the Keeper. Eventually he would love to go get a Staff of Teleportation as well. I would imagine he'll go get a staff very soon when he can, but he doesn't want to lose the Keeper in doing that. Note the grunts knew where the Keeper was, so they're able to leave the base for a second just to check if there's an AP right here. The AP could be building right here. It could also be building on the high ground. Two positions that Lynn has to check for the AP. He's only able to do this with the grunts because he knows what the Keeper is. Now the grunts are going to go run into the base again.
Players' forces are under attack.
Illusion finds the split creeping, but you can't stop everything, right? You can't stop everything. Does the Keeper have the staff? That's a good question. He does not have the staff. Now, Lynn lets the Keeper go and creeps this Trapper, which is interesting. So let's think about this a bit. He knows that the army is here. He knows that the Keeper just got level 2. So the Keeper has treants available to him. He knows there was no AP here as well. So he takes a Trapper here to get close to level 2. If he creeps both these, I believe he will be on level 2. Not very close. If not very close, yeah. It would be very close. So he takes this, but in doing so, he lets the Keeper run away from him. So is this a mistake? I'm not sure. He does have 1 charge of illusion, so what he could do here is he could use 1 charge of illusion, send it up, and meet the Keeper right here. If not, if the Keeper isn't right here, then his blade will run down and probably find the Keeper creeping this, or doing what he's doing right now. So if Lin immediately uses a Wand of Illusion after this, I would say this is a fine play. But if he doesn't, I would say, you're losing the Keeper. Not exactly sure why. But let's see if he uses that Wand of Illusion.
Player's forces are under attack.
Note the illusion up here is still scouting everything the army's doing. Oh yeah, definitely level 2. Okay, does he use the illusion? All right, doesn't use the illusion. Interesting. But he's gonna find the Keeper, but Lin, he's not indestructible. And I do think this is a mistake. He lets the Keeper go. Foggy uses his Ultra Vision, that's what he's using, from the Huntress Hall that he gets immediately. Also note Foggy, this is kind of cool. Night Elf players in the chat. He's building the expansion in his base. Kind of cool, right? And he's just going to walk it all the way over. Like, this, it's impossible to get canceled. Kind of neat. This is also a point for you Orc players why sometimes it's not worth it to just try to blindly cancel their expansion. Because sometimes you just can't cancel it, then your blade is running blindly around the map looking for an expansion cancel that you're not going to get, and their Keeper's creeping. This is why stopping the Keeper from creeping is the much more consistent answer than trying to cancel the expansion. Because in this case, if Lin tried to, he would never be able to get this expansion. But now, note, this is a mistake from Lin. He doesn't know where the Keeper is. Foggy's waiting with the Ultra Vision. He's waiting for the Grunts to scout. This is literally what he's doing. Waiting for the Grunts to check if there's an Ancient Protector here. That's why he's positioned right here. Look at his vision. Ultra Vision, so look at Lin's vision. Well, he could see to right about here. Because Ultra Vision is daytime vision in the nighttime for Night Elf, right? Which is a lot of vision. It's a whole lot. He's waiting for the Grunts to check for the AP. Lin checks for the AP, but his blade was not on top of the Keeper, so the Grunts were not safe in doing so. So 2 mistakes. 1, he let the Keeper run away to creep a Trapper. 2, he scouts with the Grunts when he doesn't know where the Keeper is. This illusion was going to do that little play that I was talking about to catch the Keeper if he ran up while the blade ran down, but he checked with the Grunts a little bit too early. Now he's probably going to lose another Grunt. This is going to be 2 Grunts dead in the early game. Would I lose the game at this point? Probably. Would I GG out at this exact moment? Probably. But Lin is going to find a way. Lin does get the deny. So both Grunts have been denied, but the reason why losing Grunts is so bad is not necessarily you're feeding a bunch of experience. Like if Foggy got both these Grunts, he wouldn't be level 3 or anything, but what this is it slows down the Shadow Hunter creeping by quite a bit. And Lin is already invested into 4 Grunts. What also this means is his upgrades are going to be very delayed because now he's trying to replace the Grunts after Brute Strength. He can't afford to get, I guess he'd put it here, he can't afford to get the War Mill yet, so he can't afford to get those upgrades yet. So he's losing a lot of opportunity for the mid-game in not getting the War Mill early, and his creeping speed is significantly lowered. So watch what Lin does, knowing that his creeping speed is low and knowing that he's very much behind. He's going to have a brilliant way of getting an earlier expansion. We're talking about buying space for an expansion. Watch what Lin does. This is crazy. And this is kind of the strategic brilliance that I was talking about. I wouldn't recommend you emulate this all the time, but this is really cool from Lin, what he does here. Because he's very far behind. He's lost 2 Grunts. No doubt about it. Very far behind.
Player's forces are under attack.
Now, this illusion could have been used to creep the mercenary camp right away. But he sees the treants are on top of him, right? So he's just going to take the easier to creep camp. Gonna get level 2 blade. Gonna use the illusion to find all the information. Foggy. Creeping on his expansion. His expo will go over there. Lin doesn't know about this, however, though, right? He doesn't know. All he's going to see is that, okay, Foggy is very far ahead. Both players know this. He's killed 2 grunts. Foggy just crept his expansion. I didn't see it building here earlier. So what does Lynn think? He probably thinks Foggy is just going to bring a wisp and just build it right here, so that he doesn't have to walk a tree all the way over, because he doesn't know. He doesn't know about this. So he's assuming Foggy's going to be building this expansion right here after this illusion scouts it.
A player's forces are under attack.
So what does Lynn do? And regardless, his play is going to work for him. So he sees it. He sees that it's crapped. And he's thinking, okay, you're probably going to build it. Because he scouts over here, too. He sees that it's not built. So he's just assuming there's going to be a wisp brought over. He's going to start building it, right? Unless, does he see the tree? Oh, does he see the tree? Oh. Okay, he doesn't see the tree. It's still nighttime. Okay, I was worried that I was going to be totally wrong about this. Yeah, so Lynn doesn't see the tree at all. So he's, of course, assuming. There's no way. Like, I've never seen this. This is the only time I've seen this in my life. The Tree of Life built in the main base on Last Refuge. It's done sometimes on Concealed Hill and stuff, but never on Amazonia sometimes too, but never here. But so he's assuming there's a wisp that just went here and built the expansion. Look, the grunts are hiding in the main base. The shamans are not yet out. Lynn knows he's not safe to creep at all because Foggy's going on the aggressive, and the expansion is going to be building behind this aggression, so Lynn cannot really creep anything. So what's he doing? He's running up. He buys a Staff of Teleportation, running up with his level 1 Shadowhunter with Serpent Wards, and he's looking for an expansion cancel. Which would be sick if the expo wasn't already up. But look what Foggy's doing. Foggy knows. What are the camps that Lynn could creep right now? He could be creeping this, potentially, which is very risky. Potentially game losing if you get creep jacked here. He could be creeping this. There's a wisp there. Or he could be creeping this more commonly. So Lynn is correct in assuming that Foggy's going to try to be aggressive on a Shadowhunter creeping because he killed 2 grunts early. So Lynn says, okay, I can't creep, but what I can do is maybe cancel your expansion, and what I can definitely do is force you back. But he's not bringing his whole army. So he puts a ward there. If there was an expansion constructing here, Lynn would have canceled it. But of course it's not constructing. And Foggy is going to do similar to what Soin did last game and force Foggy back without overcommitting to anything. Okay, note. He's going into the main base with just a Shadowhunter and a Blade. The Shadowhunter and the Blade are entirely safe because the Blade has full mana, and the staff can be passed to the Shadowhunter for him to get out if he gets Entangle surrounded. So these heroes are both entirely safe. These grunts are safe now that the Shaman is out, but not before the Shaman was out. So when Lynn made this move up the map, he didn't have this first Shaman out yet. He was waiting on it. But as soon as that Shaman comes out, the grunts are safe to go over here. Because if there was an Entangle, he would purge and he would run away. These heroes are safe because of the staff and the Windwalk mana. So now he's pulling Foggy back to make space for these grunts and these shamans and these peons to be pulled. And look what happens. Look how this works out. So now he's pulled Foggy back entirely. Even going to cancel the second Ancient War. Why not? Passes the staff. Blade has full mana for a Windwalk. Now he's got to wait till he gets entangled, and then he staffs out. And what does he do? He staffs to the creeping units completely safe. He's successfully pulled the Keeper back, the entire army back, to defend his base, defend his Ancient War getting canceled, defend his Tree of Life from getting attacked. And he's bought as much space as he possibly can for his Shadowhunter to creep his expansion, and also for these peons to build a Watchtower and a Great Hall. The same play that Soin did, the same play that Focus did, it's just a different, much more roundabout way of doing it. This is extremely difficult, which is why the Soin play is much more common. But in this particular game, with Lynn being so far behind, losing 2 grunts, about to get creep jacked at every creep camp, this was the best play he could have done, and it works out perfectly. Now the Shadowhunter can creep for free. The Blade can stay here, and he knows where the Keeper is, so he can stay on top of the Keeper. And the expansion's going to get up. Look how beautifully this works out for Lynn. Huntresses are going down because Foggy's aware of this, but there's more than enough to defend these Huntresses right now. Yeah, and now we're back to a normal game. What was once like a situation where Lynn really couldn't get anything done, couldn't even leave his base, is now back to normal. He's in position to even cancel the gold mine over and over again. The only downside of this play, and here's the downside, is that the blade doesn't have the staff of teleportation. So he's not entirely safe to just cancel the gold mine forever. Not because the blade is at risk, but because the army's at risk. Because their staff is on the Shadow Hunter. Although he's got a speed scroll and entangle, you know, he still risks getting in a bad position, getting cornered possibly, and not being able to get out, right? So the blade cannot indefinitely cancel the gold mine because he doesn't have the staff to secure his army. But he can still cancel the gold mine once or twice and then go away. So this is just beautiful. This is beautiful from Lin. This is very heads up and very tricky. Not as though like everyone's going to be able to do this in their games, but it's still the same principles. The same fundamentals, if you will, of trying to secure the Shadowhunters creeping and secure the expansion's construction.
A town is under siege.
Blade is going to cancel the gold mine, but he can't, like I said, he can't do this indefinitely. Eventually he's got to run back, so he's going to do it like once or twice, and then he's probably going to get back with his army. No, Lin has finally got his War Mill up. Does he have +1 armor yet? Not yet, because he's been short on gold because, of course, he lost 2 grunts early. Now he's getting it.
A player's forces are under attack.
Cancels the gold mine twice, and then runs back to his army to keep it safe. Foggy says, okay, I can't cancel your expansion because you're there very defensively, so I'll go and attack your main base. Which is a nice play from Foggy. It's going to force Lin back. But Foggy, you could argue this game, has been a little bit over-aggressive and not gotten a lot other than those initial 2 grunts. But he kills a burrow. But now Foggy's forced to town portal out because there would have been purges on the Huntresses and they would have fallen. But I believe Foggy did this so that his gold mine was safe for now. What's the timing on the Adept training? So 3 Shamans and then Adept was the timing for Lin. Maybe 2 even. All right, we're at 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, just for you. We're at 9 minutes and 30 seconds of the replay. Let's check it out. 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Just for you, because I said I would. 64 times.
The player's forces are under attack.
One Shaman. 2 Shaman. Adept. 2 Shamans into Adept. There you go. 9 minutes and 30 seconds. There we go. After second Shaman, which is the standard timing, of course. But just not a timing we, for some reason, saw from Focus or Soin. But yes, typically, against Human, against Farseer, against Night Elf, 2 Shamans into Adept. Note, the blade had the staff. Oh, I actually have to show you. I have to go back and show you this play, actually. Sorry, I got to restart the replay because I was talking about that. We're going back to 9 minutes here. Because this is very important. This is very important.
A player's forces are under attack.
Note what Lin does after Foggy town portals. Almost there. Okay, so Foggy is going to town portal. Look what Lin does. Look what Lin does. Passes the staff. Speed scroll. What is he trying to do? Speed scroll. Windwalk. He's trying to get back to the Entangle gold mine to cancel it again. How sick is that? His timing's going to be a little bit off, but he's got this internal clock going on in his mind saying, if I can get there and start canceling the gold mine, now I have this. I'll say it again. Sorry, guys. I have this checkmate play of now I have the staff. He can now indefinitely cancel this gold mine because he has the staff to keep his army safe. So he's thinking, if I can get back there in time to cancel the gold mine, I have probably won the game. So that's why he's speed scrolling, wind walking, immediately passing the staff, and going for that cancel again. He's not going to succeed, but the importance of the attempt is there, you know? This is checkmate, it's Lin. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what he's doing, right? Why else does he speed scroll? He doesn't think Foggy's taking the red camp. He's trying to hit a timing on the gold mine cancel. If he's able to do that successfully, the Shadowhunter can creep this, the Shadowhunter can creep this, the expansion is going to be safe. He's going to be given so much space if he's able to get there in time to cancel the gold mine.
under siege.
He doesn't quite get there in time, but
Player's forces
he can kill almost a wisp. But now he's got to get back. If he was able, say there was a world in which he was able to cancel that gold mine, but he was still forced into this fight, he would have just fought for a little bit until this expansion was safe, and then he would have retreated next to this burrow and probably put up wards, something like that, right? Or maybe would have staffed back. But, you know, if he's able to cancel the gold mine, he certainly would have tried to delay this fight as long as he could. But since his blade has to come back anyway, he's happy to take it. And with the blade being back, the Shadowhunter doesn't have great mana, however, though. But he's got enough. And, of course, Foggy is retreating. He's going to get a couple of unit kills. Now the expansion's up. What do we do when our expansion's up? We should be seeing a bestiary soon. But note the gold on Lyn. Because, again, he lost some grunts in the early game. His upgrades were delayed. What else has he spent gold on? He used that speed scroll to get away from here, right? He built a burrow at the expansion. So he's a little bit behind on gold. He's even building his 60 supply burrow, which is something I haven't seen yet. But, you know, he's a little bit shy on gold. But as soon as he can afford his bestiary, no doubt, he's going to be building a bestiary soon. Somewhere here, maybe. So we'll keep an eye on that. Note, the blade doesn't even try to get that last hit there, because he knows he's not going to get it. He just he wants to know where the keeper is. Which isn't too important right now, but it's important enough. You don't want to be creep-jacked, right? Like, yeah, you're not going to lose a lot if the keeper finds you like you will in the early game, but you certainly don't want to get creep-jacked. You want to keep eyes on the keeper. Why not? Do we see a bestiary yet? Not quite. Not quite, but don't you guys fear. We will see it soon. We will see it soon. Note, the second armor upgrade's on the way as well. A consistency as soon as he could afford it. He got it. Now he can afford the bestiary, so if Lyn's not mismacroing, unless he wants to get a heal scroll. Okay, he did want double heal scroll. Which is great against the acid bomb as well as the bouncing glaives of the huntresses. Note, Lyn didn't try to get the last hit here because he knows he can't get it. He's just keeping eyes and being a little bit annoying, not overcommitting. Double heal scroll, scroll the beast. Shadowhunter, not great mana though. So maybe something, you know, he's got good enough mana, but he's going to run out. He doesn't have double clarity, double mana pot like the other orcs have. I have seen some games where they do Bestiary Lodge after getting tier 2, getting a Wyvern. Any insights on that? Yeah, that is pretty common. It's not something I've played myself or studied too much, personally, but that was a strategy that I ran into. I can only imagine that is for, like, a higher priority on... This is a total guess. Prioritizing more getting the expo cancel. Like, say, for instance, you're able to delay the Elf's expansion by quite a while. You're able to cancel it once, you're able to cancel it twice, right? You're both on one base when you reach tier 2. In that case, I think going for Wind Riders and Shamans is sort of saying, okay, I'm not even going to try to go for this counter expansion. I'm just going to power creep with Wind Riders and probably bully you off camps because you have Huntresses and I have Wind Riders. So maybe it's a higher emphasis on one base, but don't quote me on that. Lyn almost out of mana, so he cannot win this fight. And he's going to run away. There's the bestiary. Okay. And he actually breaks upkeep before the bestiary gets up. So a little bit different, but I think this is just because it's been a little bit of a weird game. Right? This hasn't been a very comfortable game for either player. There's been a lot of weird moves back and forth. Foggy's been running into the base and town portaling out. You know, but now, yeah, he gets that Kodo. Before the ensnare, note, because he's already broken upkeep, so he might as well just keep going for units, as opposed to getting ensnare before breaking. Okay, now he gets clarity, gets another clarity. He's got a shop here as well, very important. And he's going to creep his shadow to level 4, a very important level up. Oh, this is also an important point that I missed. When Lyn went into the base there, I believe he saw the tier 3 tech from Foggy as well. Maybe he didn't. But look at the timing that he takes this next fight. He may have not seen this. He might have. But if he did see it, he retreats, creeps Shadowhunter level 4, creeps Blade level 3, gets mana on his SH, and look at the timing in which he pushes again. It's pretty incredible. If on purpose, it's incredible. So he gives Foggy some space. He says, okay, you're going tier 3. It hasn't kicked in yet. You're going tier 3. Okay, I'll go back and creep. You can get some space. No need to take a fight quite yet. I'm still waiting for my Kodo. I'm still waiting for my levels. Right? I'm waiting for my Raiders. I need to get clarities on my Shadowhunter. You know, probably mana pot here. Yep, 1 mana pot there. He says, okay, I'll give you some space. I'll go creep a couple camps. Takes 2 very high value camps, as does Foggy. Foggy got some decent items. And now Lyn has his Kodo. He's got his 3-4 levels. He's got mana on his SH. Gets Cloak of Flames, which is very good in this sort of a situation. Has Raiders coming out. What are those upgrades? They're 1-2. Is he getting 2-2? Not quite yet because his lumber's short, but he's 70 supply because his expansion was equal timed with Foggy because of all the delay that happened with the expansion being built in the main base, because of the gold mine cancels, because of the little attack right here, and because Lyn expanded so early himself. Their supplies are even because their second bases were evenly timed. So 70 versus 70. The only disadvantage Lyn has is he's tier 2 and Foggy's tier 3. But note the timing. Lyn is pushing, and this, again, isn't something you can copy. It's just something that I wanted to point out because Lyn is really good. Look at the timing. Okay, Foggy's creeping. His tier 3 just finished. What do you get when you go to tier 3? Well, you normally get an orb. Sometimes you'll have a second shop and you'll get double orb right away. You'll get a Priestess of the Moon, which Foggy's waiting for this Moonwell to finish before he gets, and you'll get Marksmanship upgrade, which is about to finish. So Lyn's about to take a fight when Foggy has invested into tier 3, and they're on equal supply, and all Foggy's going to get out of tier 3 is the Marksmanship, which is a big upgrade, but there's no Potom for Aura, and there's, more importantly, no Orb of Venom, which is massive for Foggy. Orb of Venom is a huge upgrade, as of course is the Potom. But look at this timing that Lyn takes this big fight. Didn't take it earlier. It's going to take it now. And he's staying tier 2, just massing units, right? He can't get any stronger. He's got the 1-2 grunts. He could maybe get a second attack upgrade, but he's got his Kodo. He's got... Does he have Raiders yet? He's got a Raider on the way. He's got 1-2 upgrades. He's got Heal Scroll, Invuln, Mana Pot, level 4, level 3. He's not teching. This is as strong as Lyn is ever going to get, and Foggy has not yet gotten what will make him strong, which is the Orb, which is the Priestess. Beautiful timing. Beautiful timing from Lyn. And Foggy is essentially on tier 2. Even supply tier 2, and Lyn is much more prepared for the fight. Foggy's got a couple scrolls. But even supply, even tech, Orc probably has the advantage. Yeah, they have the advantage. I'll say it. Orc has the advantage. Scroll the Beast used. Still has a mana pot on the Shadow. Look at the blade. Look at the AoE when there's Lightning Shield and Cloak of Flames in the back. It is a lot of damage. No Lightning Shield right now. There will be soon. There it is. Hey, Peasy with the 2 years and 47 cents. Thank you very much. Says, Neo, you are a legend. Guess this voice from Warcraft 3. Your prattle begins to annoy me. That is a Death Knight. And, you know, not much to say about this fight. Lyn hits a beautiful timing. He's more than prepared for this fight. And he just kind of destroys Foggy. And now Foggy, oh, his Potom's about to come out. Oh, he's going to get Orb. But he just lost 30 supply. Hey, Brimstar with the 300 bits as well. Says, great analysis on highlighting the big brain plays. Appreciate that. Always appreciate your support. Thank you, guys. Thank you both.
A town is under...
Wish we could look at the supply. Well, it was even. It was 70 versus 70. Now it's 69 against 47 for Foggy. So now Lin has a 20 supply advantage. But at the beginning of that fight, it was 70 against 70. Because this was the 80 supply Moonwell for Foggy. And look how good the orb is. The orb is so strong here that if Foggy had that and had the Potom, he probably would have been at the advantage during this fight. Now the Potom's here, but still, as I said, 20 supply disadvantage. Armin VB, what's up, brother? How you doing? This is the Orc versus Elf hotline, 28% here, you absolute legend. Thank you, Armin. Appreciate that. And we're just waiting for the double G's from Foggy. That's how you spell his name. You can't spell Foggy without GG, everybody. And there's GG. All right. So that was an interesting game, right? That's why I put that replay third and not first. So despite Lin probably being the best Orc player in the world, I do believe Fly might be the best Orc versus Elf player in the world, but Lin is easier to emulate. The reason why I didn't put that replay first and I instead put it behind Focus and Soin was because it was a little bit weird. A little bit wacky. There was some plays in there that are not easy to emulate, but still worth noting. The speed scroll to cancel the gold mine, to attempt to cancel the gold mine, was a beautiful attempt at a play. The Shadowhunter Blade Master going across the map to buy space for the Shaman to come out, then the Grunts to creep the expansion without the Shadow being there. Beautiful play. Not easy to emulate. What's easier to emulate is what Soin did in the previous replay, where you canceled the gold mine, right? That's much easier to emulate, but the goals are still the same. You buy space for Shadow to get level 3, and you buy space for your expansion to not be canceled. That is what these are trying to accomplish, those two things. It's always the same. Space for the Shadowhunter, space for the expansion. Please don't entangle my Grunts before I have Shamans. That's what it's all about, right? Same idea. Different play, roundabout way, but that's it. All right, we got one more replay, but let's first see like what was different about that. So Lin certainly didn't overcommit his blade. I'll put another star there. He had great staff usage. Of course, we just touched on that. He did prioritize grunt upgrades, but because he lost 2 grunts early, he couldn't necessarily afford them right away. He definitely bought time for his counter expansion. His Shadowhunter mana prioritization wasn't quite there as much as it was with Soin and Focus, but he was definitely ready with mana items when he actually wanted to fight. So let's give him a star for that one, too. Bestiary timing. I don't know, what do you guys think? Was it good? What is the skill tree on a Blade Master? Up for debate. Of course, on Northern Isles, we saw crit first, but most of the time it'll be Windwalk into Critical Strike. And on level 3, sometimes you will go Mirror Image. Sometimes you will go Windwalk level 2. Very rarely will you go crit level 2. But level 3 is the level where sometimes you will get Mirror Image. Why Mirror Image, you might ask? Which we're not going to see today, unfortunately. We're just seeing Windwalk crit, Windwalk crit, crit. From level 1 to level 5. But why might you go Mirror Image on level 3? Well, of course, Mirror Image can get rid of Entangle. It can get rid of Acid Bomb. It can get rid of Dust of Appearance. All these things. It can also tank for you. It can also have Lightning Shield cast on it to go back into the archers. So Mirror Image is very, very viable. Just because we haven't seen it today doesn't mean you shouldn't experiment with it in your games. On level 3 and 4 Blade Master. Go level 1 and 2 Mirror Image. Definitely worthwhile trying out. We're not going to see it today, just like we're not going to see tier 3 tech into Bloodlust and Pitlord, but it's not to say those are bad things to do. I just didn't have the replays to show those things. I would have if I could have. But yeah, for sure. Mirror Image is extremely good in this matchup. In general, really. Even against Demon Hunter, sometimes it's really good. And the Bestiary time was a bit weird, but let's put some stars there. Let's give a little bit of leeway because it was a wacky game. Oh my god, Armin. Armin, no! No, you put too many T's in butt. But see you. Have a good night, Armin. Good to see you. Thanks for the sub. Okay, last and final replay. This will be a little bit of a quick one. It's just, I wanted to show Fly, the very aggressive orc player. And this is going to be a game which has probably the biggest skill differential of all the replays we're watching. But, you know, it's good to show. This will be Fly 100% against Alice on Echo Isles. And this is going to be pretty much everything going perfectly for Fly and showing if you play confidently and properly with all the things we've gone over today in mind, that you're going to find yourself in games where you can kind of just kill the Night Elf. So we're going to see we're going to see Fly just kind of kill Alice in this game. This will be the last replay. This will be the last replay. And we'll see if he does this while also following all the fundamentals. All the fundamentals. Right? Let's check it out. Replay number 4. Here we go, baby. In the top left is Fly, spamming the rally points. In the top right, we do have Alice, who's, you know, I'm saying there's a big skill differential, but Alice is an extremely good player. A Chinese Night Elf player, a very good player, just not at the caliber of Fly. Because Fly is one of the best players of all time. But still a very strong player. Certainly a worthy opponent. I actually had a cat named Alice. But let's see what's different. Let's see if anything changes for our final replay. And Alice is certainly going to make some mistakes. Probably going to give too much respect to Fly, as happens when you're playing legendary players. But we're not here to talk about the mistakes the Night Elf is playing, okay? We're here to talk about how good Fly is. That's what we're here to talk about, all right? Gosh darn it. Peon Scout wants to see where the Ancient War is. What's another option for the Ancient War on this map? Of course, it could be at the Mercenary Camp. What would the reaction be? Probably Fly would take the item and then go across to try to harass the second camp. Not obviously, you wouldn't be able to stop this, but he'd try to harass earlier because he doesn't want to let the Keeper get level 3. But since he's going to see the Ancient War here, he's going to do a little bit of a different creep route. But still, Peon Scout shop here, which is just a little Echo Isles special. Echo Isles is a very complicated map. For Orc, maybe for every race, but it's kind of a very complicated map. So, you know, it's tricky. 2 questions. Go ahead. Yeah. We're still in the early game. Absolutely. Go ahead. Do they replace wood peons after 50? You mean because they've transferred 5 to the expansion? All right, good questions. Both very good questions. Okay. Do they reproduce wood peons that are being transferred to the expansion? So you have 7 peons, 8 that you scout with, but the 8th peon dies most of the time, so you have 7. You transfer 5 to the expansion. You're left with 2 at your main base. Do they replace wood peons later on? Yes. Most of the time, you'll get about 3 more. But you'll also have surplus lumber a lot of the time as well, because your expansion should be a little bit delayed. What is the timing of the War Mill? If you can afford it, you get it immediately at Tier 2. So when you hit Tier 2, you get 4 things. You get Shadow Hunter, Spirit Lodge, Brute Strength, and a War Mill. And then after that, you get your burrow, your 40 supply burrow. All these things, if you can get all 5 of these at the same time, you get all 5 of them. So your War Mill is as early as you can possibly get it while getting all the other things, right? The peon thing, I would say, is depending on how late your expansion is. Because the later your expo is, the more lumber your peons harvest before transferring to the expansion, right? So it really depends. But typically, yeah, you'll build a couple more. But you won't need to until breaking upkeep a lot of the time. Good questions. This shop, I don't know why he built that. Especially with the blade being here and all, but... Well, no, you'd already have 3 grunts, Razor. You'd already have 3 grunts. So you get your brute strength before your 4th grunt, right? You'd already have 3 grunts. Alright, so here's the creeper. He gets calls of attack, then he goes to the 12 o'clock. The grunt finds the keeper, but a little risky business here by Fly, who, as I said, is a very aggressive, intuitive player. So he goes for heads-up plays. Sometimes he looks a fool, as Mr. T would say. But he does this because, you know, he can micro himself out of it a lot of the time. Which is why it's easier to learn from people like Lin as opposed to Fly, because Fly does stuff that sometimes doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but he makes it work. But it's hard to emulate.
A player's forces are under attack.
Yeah, but did he? I don't think he did the shop. It's just weird that he did it right there in front of him with the wisp for the shop trick. Keeper goes into the main base. This is a common play to go into the main base to kill peons. Another reason why you try to keep on top of the keeper, because you don't want to have to lose peons, because we were just talking about the lumber economy of Orc. Losing peons like this is rough. But here's another really aggressive play from Fly. He buys Staff of Teleportation, and he just goes for the Expo cancel with no information. This isn't something I would recommend. He just runs across the map looking for the expansion cancel. He doesn't chase the keeper. He loses a peon in doing so. He loses a grunt in doing so. But he just runs across and says, I'm going to cancel your expansion. But this is a Fly play. This is what he does. He goes for crazy... He goes for gambles almost, you could say. Which maybe you would argue this is, you know, maybe he's doing the best play, whatever. But the fact he's not on top of the keeper right now means, you know, the keeper could be creeping this, for instance. He could be creeping anything for free. Thank you. This will be level 2 on the blade. He's got the staff, though, so he's... See, again, he's like... He's moving out with the grunts. He's moving out with the grunts. He's being very risky. He doesn't know where the keeper is, but he's moving out with the grunts. But Fly has probably a sixth sense about this. He probably understands the keeper's not here right now. We don't, and he doesn't actually see the keeper until now. He will see the keeper. But Fly probably knows, okay, the keeper is going to be doing X, Y, and Z. He's not going to be on top of my grunts, which is why he's probably doing this. Archer falls. Expo up. And the keeper is keeping it safe. As I said, Alice is going to make a couple mistakes in giving Fly a little bit too much respect and space. He's not going to creep his keeper as much as he should, possibly. Because right now he's sitting next to his expansion to try to not let it get canceled, when he could be maybe on top of the grunts. He could be maybe taking away the expansion. But of course he lost his archer. He's only now got a Huntress, and he's on Entangle on level 1. So he doesn't have level 2, he doesn't have Treants. It's very difficult. But still, I think Alice might be... Oh, he's got 2 Huntresses. Pardon me. I think Alice still might give Fly a bit too much respect and too much space this game. Because now look what Fly is able to do. But of course, Fly is doing this. He just saw the keeper, right? So he knows the keeper's close by. So look at this. This is kind of cool from Fly. Similar to what Lin did, he attacks the expansion. He knows the keeper is forced to defend this. If the keeper was not here, Fly would have just had enough time with the claws on the circlet to get this cancel, I would wager. Benzin Mogul with the tier 1 for 22 months. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. Benzin Mogul. Thank you very much. And Mango234. Not Mango, Mango with the 13 months. Tier 2 for 13 months. Thank you very much for the tier 2 and the tier 1. Appreciate you guys. All right, so he just has enough damage to cancel this, so Alice has to respect it and come back. What does Fly do with this space that the keeper has now given him? He staffs to the grunts. Does he go to the grunts? Yeah, he staffs to the grunts. And he's just going to take the Merc camp. So... although this may have seemed like crazy town what Fly was doing, you run across the map blindly and go for an Expo cancel, and then you just sort of sit around here for a while. But it all works out in the end, and Fly's going to get the entire Merc camp on his blade. And he's even going to buy both mercenaries. Very cool. He's going to get very close to blade level 3. And he knows the expansion timing. He knows that Alice has to creep this expansion because the expo is about 50% done. So he has an internal clock running in his head that says, okay, Alice is creeping the expo right now. I have the time to creep this and then get back to his expansion after I get level 3. Ah, benzene, fuel, and German. No Ben included. Beautiful. He even got a crystal ball. I'm sorry, I didn't see if he used the crystal ball. I imagine he did use it on the expo. I didn't see exactly where he used it. But see? He gets level 3, and now he's just going to run to the expansion, and now, all of a sudden, although it seemed a little bit weird from Fly, he gave the Keeper space to creep jack or to attack his grunts. He went for a blind expo cancel. He crept Blade level 3, which we haven't seen people do, but he does this all and then still has a beautiful timing to run across the map with Staff of Teleportation and cancel the mine if Alice allows him to. So he's doing a bunch of weird stuff, but he's still, as the end goal, making enough space for his Shadowhunter to creep. And on top of this, he's got a Priest, so his Shadowhunter is even safe even if the Keeper were to creep jack him right now, because he has a Priest. So he's got a temporary solution to the Keeper being aggressive.
Player's forces are under attack.
And now the Shadowhunter's just going to power creep. We don't see a War Mill from Fly, which I just talked about. We do often see a War Mill. We'll wait and see if we get a War Mill from Fly or not. But the Blade now, level... It's much easier to do what all these orcs have been trying to do if you have level 3 Blade, right? More movement speed, you last longer. You have more mana, you have more health. It's a lot of good things that come. And the Blade is just going to be able to cancel the gold mine if Alice doesn't defend it. And in the meantime, Fly is just power creeping. Do we see a War Mill? Not yet. Note, this game, 2 Shamans, Adept, standard from Fly. No War Mill yet. But the Blade is still here, still knows where the Keeper is, and although Alice is getting some creeping done with his Alchemist, Fly knows that his Shadowhunter is safe. And the Shadowhunter got probably the fastest level 3 we've seen today. Very fast level 3. Still no War Mill, though. Still no War Mill. But Fly was there. He was on top. He's got to go back now, though, because he's a little bit low on health. But he's given enough space to his Shadowhunter to get level 3 for free. He's got good mana on the Shadowhunter. And this is what I mean by sometimes if your early game goes good enough. Fly has a strong army. He lost 1 grunt, yeah, but he got level 3 on his heroes extremely fast. Sometimes you can just march across the map and kill them. This gold mine has not gotten any gold. I guess the peon got 10 gold from it earlier. That's why it's at this. Sometimes you can just kill him. So in the meantime, Fly is going to push. What is this push going to do? This is a very common thing to do. You push their expansion if you get level 3 Shadowhunter early. This gives you enough space to build the expansion because, of course, the elf, as we saw, I believe, in replay number 2, Soin against LawLiet, if the elf runs across the map to cancel your Great Hall, all they're doing is canceling your Great Hall, and in doing so, you're literally killing their Tree of Life. So this is another play in which you guarantee the expansion gets up, or you guarantee you kill their expansion. Because Alice now is forced to defend his expansion, and because Fly crept so fast, and he's got mercenaries, and, you know, he's Fly, he's gonna just be able to kill Alice with this timing. And still have a backup plan in that his expansion will be safe behind it. No War Mill yet, though. Just 700 gold for Fly. Just Fly things. But this is sometimes how your games can go. If the early game and the creeping is very fast, as it was this game, Fly wasted no time getting level 3 on both of his heroes. No time at all. And now the expansion's up. You could say, yeah, this is exposed. It might get canceled. He doesn't know where the Keeper is. But it's going to get canceled, and then Fly is going to be right here in time to just kill the Tree of Life or force a fight. And what kind of fight is he forcing? Well, he's forcing a fight that he's going to win. Shadowhunter mana not quite there, but he's got enough. He's got enough to get a lot of wards up. Note the expansion has not mined at all. This Great Hall is going up. War Mill now going up behind more units. And there's just no way the Night Elf is going to win this fight. Did Alice make some mistakes this game? Certainly. Is Fly a much better player than Alice? Certainly. But if everything goes really well in your game and your Night Elf opponent is giving you a lot of respect, this is how it can end sometimes. And now either Alice dies on the sword defending the expansion, or he gives up the expansion and Fly is in an extremely strong position. So there's really no winning move here for Alice, and there's five wards here. You can't fight into 5 wards. That's why you need archers. There's no archers available for Alice. And I don't think Fly has lost a unit since that grunt in the early game. Note, though, this is a very important point. Very important. This is not an all-in. All this push is, for Fly, is a distraction to safely get his expansion up. If at any point Fly is in danger of not winning this fight and winning the game, he is just going to leave. He's not going to fight. He's just going to speed scroll away, or he's going to just have enough mana to get away with purges. He's going to sacrifice a grunt to an entangle to get away. Fly is not going to commit. He's not going to build a bunch of towers, although sometimes you will see that. This is not an all-in. It is only purely to get this expansion up safely uncancelled. And if you win the fight, that's great. If you kill the expansion of your opponent, that's great. But Fly will never overcommit here to winning the game. He'll just push to the point in which he's starting to lose the fight, and then he'll leave. Shadowhunter runs out of mana, Blade gets low, and he just leaves. His expansion's safe. There's no way it gets cancelled. Do you path around wards or walk through them? I don't know. I'm pretty sure you path around them, actually. I don't know. That's a good question. I would guess, if I had to put money on it, I would say you go through them, but intuitively I feel like you path around them. And the expansion's scouted, but safe. Shadowhunter staff. Note value from the staff. The Blade Master used the staff a couple times earlier. What did he use it for? He used it to get to the mercenary camp to get level 3 for free. He used it to be safe to delay the gold mine earlier. And now again, he's using it to get mana efficiently on his Shadowhunter so that he can re-attack the expansion after getting heal scroll invuln. Third time he's used the staff. All 3 times were for nearly game-winning plays. Staff is a huge deal in Standard. Heal second or ward second, this was wards level 2 from Fly. Wards level 2. Wards do have collision for a Windwalk Blade Master. Interesting. Expansion, safe. Peons transferred. A little bit late, Fly, I'll admit. But... And note, he's done something a bit different here. He's not getting +1 armor. He's instead getting reinforced defenses because he believes the only way that Alice can win, this is how I'm justifying, an inconsistency. But I believe this is because the only way Alice could win is if he goes for just a big counterattack on the main base and goes for the burrows, in which case Fly doesn't have a town portal to get back. So he would have lost all those burrows. So he's getting the reinforced defenses, just saying, okay, I don't need the armor upgrades to actually win the fight. I'm so far ahead that I don't need this. I'm still going to win with 0/0 grunts. But what I could do is lose all my burrows, all my peons, and lose the game because I don't have a town portal. So this is a way of saying, you have no way of beating me. There's no way. I believe. And there certainly is no way for Alice to beat Fly anymore. And GG is called. Expansion is dead. Fly's expansion is up. The main base is safe. The heroes are good. The mana is there. And there's probably even a bestiary coming up behind that. So I will say, let's finish up our gold stars here. Shadowhunter did go back and get mana. He didn't overcommit with the blade, unlike Fly. He did have great staff usage. He didn't necessarily prioritize grunt upgrades, but he was getting them after the reinforced defenses for the reasons I explained. He surely bought time for the counter expansion, and the bestiary was The game was over before bestiary timing was there. Fundamentals. There they are. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? That was 4 replays. 4 different Orc players against 4 different Night Elf players. Standard games. A lot of consistencies, but some different ways of accomplishing these goals. Right? But each player has their own sort of style. They have their own flavor. Yeah, how to emulate them. The best way to emulate these players, what I would say is if you want to study an Orc player, I would recommend studying Hitman. What Hitman is in my opinion, he takes the best parts of all these players, the most consistent parts of all these players, and combines them all, and that's his style. Why didn't Fly make a War Melt tier 2 like usual, Carson Boyle? I don't know. You probably know the answer to that, Victor. I don't know. I don't know. But what Hitman's style is he doesn't do any of the wacky stuff that maybe Fly does or maybe Lynn does with that weird Shadowhunter move. He just says, what is the most consistent way to play and take the best parts of all these players, and then he just plays like that. So he's not going to do these crazy plays necessarily that are going to, win him a game that he was super behind in like Lynn did. But he's going to have a consistent way that's step-by-step, easy to follow. So I'd recommend, to put this into practice, I would study Hitman replays with everything we've talked about today in mind, and I think his style will make a lot more sense. That's what I'd recommend. Hi, Carson. At low MMR, people don't play Standard a lot, and I'm losing to Bears, Dries, and Chims with Keeper of the Grove, DH. Any suggestions how to counter? Man, that's a lot. There's a lot of strategies that Night Elf can do. They can do Talons. They can do lores. They can do Demon Hunter Talons. They can do Demon Hunter lores. They can do Warden. They can do Mass Archers. They can do a lot of different strategies. And honestly, I'm not sure of the best counter of all those strats. I think Orcs are still experimenting. The earlier, this is from Hitman in chat, about the Fly not having the War Mill, whereas all the other players we watched today had the War Mill. The earlier you confirm their Expo, the more you can afford to skip Mill for faster Expo and scroll, etc. for push. Beautiful. Beautiful. As I said at the beginning of the episode, there's of course some details, some nuances when it comes to creep routes, when it comes to maybe specific changes to the build order, when it comes to when they break upkeep, when it comes to, why they're creeping what they're creeping. But we're just focusing on the fundamentals today. What are the consistent things that we can copy and follow and take for our own play? And that whole delaying the War Mill thing, kind of cool, but difficult to implement unless you're a very high-level player, I would say, in my opinion. Right? Most of the time, I would just say, if you can afford the War Mill, just get it and get those upgrades up. Yeah, for instance, when Hitman plays against Keeper DH Talons or Keeper DH Lords, he does something much different than Focus does. Focus does something much different from Soin. So, there's not really a consensus on what the proper counter to all these things are, other than this standard play. Against DH, Hitman plays Raider Hit and Run with an expansion with Fortified Towers. Lynn, I think, plays Tauren Chieftain, Grunt, Raider, Walker. Again, there's no consistent answer to these weird, what I would consider off-meta builds from Night Elf, which aren't really off-meta because they're pretty common. There's really only a consistent solution, I guess we could put it that way, to the most standard build, which is why I say I don't necessarily know how to answer that question about how do I beat Keeper DH Talons, Keeper DH Lords. Because there's lots of different ideas on how to do that. Focus, in my opinion, is the best against Talons, so Focus might have his own response. Carson, slightly off topic, but what's the key to beating FS Mass Headhunter as undead? I would say lots of aggression. Not giving them a lot of space, not giving them room to breathe. Dark Ranger second is really good. That's kind of what Happy's doing. Consistently scouting for expansions. But again, that's one of the strategies that I also have to download some replays and check it out because it's something I haven't done a lot of work in. But, you know, what I've seen be more successful is lots of aggression on level 2, Dark Ranger second, even going like Fast Fiends a lot of the time, but don't have like a clear-cut answer for you. Yeah, Ted Fiends isn't the ideal answer. Ideally, you'd want to go for Fast Fiends against Farseer Headhunters. That is like, that's the, if you could know what he's going and you had to do the answer, it would be DK Fast Fiends would be the best build. Honestly, I'd recommend watching like Insup defeating Kiwi or something. That'd be a very simple, clear-cut way of you know, how he does it. Because I don't know if Happy plays a lot of Farseer Headhunters. Does he? It's hard to find. It's hard to find replays of this stuff. There's no undeads in Asia, and there's no orcs in Europe. Why do you wear a t-shirt every time you unbutton your flannel all the way? I don't get it. This t-shirt's dope, dude. Look at this. Look at this. That's sick. I am sweating a lot. It's very hot in here. But I wasn't sweating when I started today. I was actually very tired when I started today's show. Now I'm totally awake, which is great. So thank you guys for that. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Next week is community replay review. So let me get rid of this. Get out of here. Let me switch back to this. Email me at carson@backtowarcraft.com. You can email me your replays there. You can also join our Back to Warcraft Discord and join the TheoryCraft channel. How can you find that Discord? You can go to backtowarcraft.com. Those are 2 ways. If you want to send me replays, I will review your replays next week. I might not get around to all of them because I have lots of replays. Wants to see some chest hair? Yeah. Give me a quick shout out before you go, please. Adam Us Pie Slig. You're Adam to me now. You're Adam. Adamus. Yeah, there we go. Shout out to you, Adam. But yeah, next week, community replay review. Any topic? No, I think in the future, if I start getting enough replays, I will do topics. I'll be like, hey, why don't you guys try this build for me? But no, you just send me anything you want. Within reason, I'm not going to watch a 50-minute replay. But, you know, if they're 15 to 20 minutes, I'll watch them. Send them over. I'll check them all out. I'll watch them all regardless, and I'll choose. Of course, I'll choose the oldest ones. They get priority. Patreon also gets priority. And then watch yours. And if I don't watch them this month, we'll watch them next month. We do this every month. So with that in mind, shout out to our patrons as well. They keep the wheels turning, and we very much appreciate it. Let me find the list, even though I remember most of the people. So shout out to the 500 euro golden goat on Patreon, exclamation point Patreon, or if you're on YouTube, it's down in the description. Check it out. We'll have a YouTube video, I believe, coming out soon, introducing everyone to the Patreon on YouTube. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But 500 euro golden goat, of course, Kenobi Quakes, appreciate you very much. Thank you very much. Our 50 euro Midas tier patrons, Toxie, Constantine, Bohm, Nem182, Save Orcas, and Scription. Our 25 euro profit tiers, Dondolare, JGas123, and N Padroot. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you watching. Appreciate you listening. I appreciate the positivity today. Does help to keep the flow of the show going. I mean, we had a little bit of an argument about chess in the chat, but that's totally fine. It's totally fine. Appreciate it, guys. I'll see you this weekend for WGL qualifiers on Saturday and Sunday, June 5th and 6th at 10 a.m. PST and 8 a.m. PST on Sunday. See you there. Goodbye.